Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 24. Hello, Amanda James.
Hello, everyone.
Wow, coming in hot. Well, today we're going to be talking about Lorne's response to the government's response. So, Lorne submitted his motion requesting early termination, and the government said no.
They
And
said,
now,
fuck no, bitch.
yeah, basically, yes, that's what they said. And then Lorne is saying, is there a chance though?
You should, though. That's what
You
he's saying.
should. Right, exactly. But here's the reason why you should. So we're going to go through that response. And now you were just saying that you haven't read the full thing carefully.
No, I just kind of skimmed. I
Okay.
skimmed it while I was outside of Walmart.
Oh,
So,
okay. Apropos.
right.
So then you're going to be, I don't know, you're going to have a reaction, I think, at a couple of things. If you
Okay,
if you
can't wait.
haven't, yeah, if you haven't heard them already. So, once again, I'm not going to put the document up on the screen. I think that I'm just going to have us have a little bit of a background. And for the background today, what I was thinking about was, you know how moms and grandmas will have like a collage of photos of the kids through the years, like
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way up to graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we kind of have the same thing for Lorne, but it's not exactly for school. It's for his class. And so I thought that this might be a nice background, a nice reminder of where it all started up until where we are. And hopefully, there's going to be many more rows with many
Mm-hmm.
more photos.
Let's
So
hope so. For
that's what we're
life.
hoping for life. Exactly. So let's get started. So we have the United States of America once again. Everyone in this country is against Lorne Armstrong. And the official title is Defendant's Reply Memorandum in Support of Motion for Early Termination of Supervised Release with Incorporated Memorandum of Law. So it starts. Now comes Lorne Armstrong, defendant, through counsel, and respectfully offers the following reply memorandum in support of his motion for early termination of supervised release, pursuant to 18 U.S.C. 3583E1 and 18 U.S.C. 3553A, that the balance of his supervised release be terminated and that he be discharged effective immediately. In support of the motion, Mr. Armstrong offers the following incorporated reply memorandum of law. So the very first part here is the government's position. So Amanda James, what does it say?
The government quote, defers to the view of the U.S. Probation Office in these matters, end quote. See ECF number 50 at P1. The Probation Office's view is that it opposes Mr. Armstrong's motion. At P2, in support of its opposition, the Probation Office cites the nature and circumstances of the offense and the offender's history and characteristics. It does so in spite of its acknowledgement that since, quote, the defendant began his second term of supervised release in the District of Maine, the defendant has participated in sex offender treatment, begun working at his own business, recycling pallets, end quote, and in spite of the fact that there, quote, have been no instances of noncompliance that have necessitated court notification, end quote.
Okay.
More
Oh, go ahead.
More Okay, more specifically, it states that throughout his time on supervision, the defendant has participated in the sex offender treatment program. The defendant's conduct at times was so disruptive to the group that he was removed, and that based upon that and his previous revocation, which Mr. Armstrong acknowledged in his initial filing and which was adjudicated nearly 5 years ago, the probation office's administrative office criteria are not met. Okay,
Okay.
so
So let's go to the first footnote first before we talk about everything that's in there. Because I think it's going to be something that's really important to bring it all together. And it includes an argument that I think you'll find hilarious. So, the probation office reports that, quote, the clinician assigned to the defendant, Julie, has been consulted on this matter and joins the probation office in opposition to the request, end quote. Mr. Armstrong, however, reports that he met with Julie the week of June 10th, 2024, and that she reported to him that she did not assert a position, quote, in opposition to the request, quote, only that she advised the probation office that Mr. Armstrong's status and progress in the program.
of course, he's gonna go run back to Julie. They said you don't want me off probation either, Julie.
Right.
Okay, so she said she didn't assert a position in opposition to the request, but she advised them on his status and progress in the program.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be that she said he has not progressed sufficiently to let him off probation? Could it be she said he's doing really shitty in the sex offender treatment program?
Yeah, yeah. She gave the status and the progress in the program. And from what they read from that, they said, oh, well, she clearly believes that he shouldn't be off of probation.
Oh man, how he did the same thing with Allie.
He did.
Remember,
Yes.
they said, um, he said Allie didn't want him assigned to a new counselor, but probation said that Allie signed off on it, on him being assigned to a new provider.
Yes. Yep.
So he's
Exactly.
got a thing with confronting these women that he puts up on this high pedestal.
Sure. No,
Wow.
absolutely, he does. Just like you had so expertly did a role play, did a little, we heard what Lorne said to Julie. Julie.
That's what he said, probably.
Probably. Yeah, that's exactly. With a lot of stuttering, though, in many syllables.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing is with Julie, though, she's not a probation officer. She's not
Right.
an officer of the court. She's not a judge. She's not making a legal determination that has to do with somebody's punishment. She's evaluating him in treatment. So it's not, I don't think, within her scope of a profession to offer that type of a response that she opposes that he be she opposes along with the government. She's not a part of the government.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that their statement of that is just based on the narrative of what she provided.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's pretty clear
Mm-hmm.
um, to understand, and anybody but Lauren could come to the same conclusion, I think. But he really needs it spelled out for him. Like you said, I think it's just that Julie didn't offer an opinion either way because that's not her job.
Right. Yeah. So she gave what his status would be in the program, what his progress is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she's asked to do. Probation is asked for their opinion regarding probation itself. So I think that this is going to fall under the category of Lorne doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Because this statement is coming from Lorne. And what did he say about what his class was telling him or his counselor was telling him about finishing the class, what was required of him.
Yeah, exactly. He misunderstands everything. He swore that they were telling him that he needs a face-to-face girlfriend to get out of the class,
Right.
which they
Right.
cannot force you into a relationship, nor would that doesn't make sense. That's silly anyway.
No, no, of course it doesn't make sense. But he held on to that for years,
Hmm.
for years. And wasn't it until recently?
Yeah, it was during the Casey, maybe the thruple stuff, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that it was clarified to him. But he still insisted that that's not what they were telling him. They were telling him he needed a girlfriend,
Right.
not that he should engage with real people in his community, people who could be verified, people who weren't fucking with him from the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he held on to that for so many years. And that was always his argument. And it's always just Lorne not understanding the words that are coming out of somebody's mouth. What a shocker.
Yeah, he'll just twist it to be some silly, ridiculous thing. I think they told him if he's going to have a girlfriend, if he wants a relationship, then he should just find someone local, a real person. And he took that. And I think they said, tied it back to his progress with the class, that he keeps engaging with these people online whose
Yeah.
ages can't be verified.
Mm-hmm.
And he twisted it all together to mean you need a real girlfriend to get out of class.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it goes right back to his crime.
Yes, it does.
It does. And even more so just on a personal development front, for him. They wanted him to get off of the internet. Even though he wasn't allowed on the internet, he was still very much on the internet.
Yeah, engaging with the internet people.
Right. Yeah,
You're
everyone
right.
was related somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was connected. And that was his circle of friends. Those were his relationships. They were all highly dysfunctional, highly abusive, both ways.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't doing well, and he hasn't done well. So it makes sense that they're going to say, listen, get your shit together. You need to pull yourself away from these people. It's not doing you any good. Stop talking
Mm-hmm.
to them. Get out there. You work with other people. Talk to them. You know, go somewhere. Talk to those people. I think they suggested bowling or something like that, and he, of course, thought that was a stupid idea.
Yeah, because I think they saw that him communicating with the internet people came from loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
So the only people he had to talk to were the internet people or Tony. And then he would get drunk with Tony. And he made it clear to them that it was Tony's fault that he got drunk and violated probation. So, of course, they're not going to think Tony was a good person for him to hang out with. Then Tony died.
Yeah.
So they're saying, Lauren, go make new friends, go make real friends. And you're right. It's a reflection of his lack of personal growth. And it showed that he couldn't learn his lesson.
Exactly.
He just could not learn from mistakes, which is concerning when when you think about the thing that Lauren did to get him in that class to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that he learned from his mistakes so he didn't repeat them. That's the whole point, is to make sure he doesn't reoffend.
Right.
And if he's completely incapable of learning from his mistakes, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I thought that was an interesting footnote.
Of course, I knew he would run to Julie. The minute I read that in probation's response, I knew
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
How upset he would be by that.
Yeah. And it's funny how, in his opinion, they always get it wrong, don't they?
Hmm.
Julie, what do you mean? I would never say that. You're doing great. I don't know why they would ever say that I'm with them or I gave some type of information indicating that, you shouldn't be off of probation. Why would they say that? I can't
Yeah,
believe it.
why would they say that?
Yeah, and just like you said before with Allie, they did the same thing, right? Everything was wrong.
Hmm.
It's just all of it is just to make him look bad.
Yeah, they're
And
just lying.
yeah, they're just lying.
And
Yeah.
Julie and Allie would never be against him. They're perfect.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're perfect. But I'm sure you're right. I'm sure she said, Lauren, I didn't assert a position either way. I just told him how you're doing in treatment.
Yeah.
And her report on how he's doing in treatment clearly shows that he shouldn't be off probation. Put the pieces together. It's not hard.
Yeah, he hasn't completed treatment. I would have to say it's likely he's not even close.
Well, he's. It sounds like he's at the beginning. He's reparenting himself.
He's starting at the beginning.
That is literally the very, very beginning.
He's at age 2,
I would
you
think, yeah.
know, where you have to start to teach a little bit, you know. Yeah, he's at age 2. He's got a long way to go.
He does.
He sure does. Yeah. So then let's get to Mr. Armstrong's reply. The government acknowledges that 18 USC 3583, not the probation office's internal administrative office criteria, controls the consideration of Mr. Armstrong's motion. The statute does not distinguish between the types of offenses, example, sex offenses. It focuses, however, on the fact that the court must be satisfied that such action is warranted by the conduct of the defendant and the interest of justice. Mr. Armstrong does not challenge that the court needs to be satisfied. What he does challenge, however, is the fact that the court's determination should be guided at least in part by temporal considerations. In other words, the court must determine the conduct of the defendant and the interest of justice in fixed points of time. The operative statute invites the court to consider the possibility of termination after the expiration of at least 1 year of supervision. Mr. Armstrong has been on supervision for more than a decade. He acknowledges the violations that supported his one prior revocation nearly 5 years ago. The probation office discusses Mr. Armstrong's conduct during sex offender treatment, quote unquote, at times. Beyond that broad phrase, we have no specificity that would allow the court to know when this conduct occurred. So let's take a step back a little bit here. So again, we're going into the statute that states that the court has leeway and they're able to release someone from supervised release after a 1-year term should they decide that the criteria have been met.
Mm-hmm.
They're stating that it doesn't distinguish between the types of offenses, such as sex offenses. Okay, if it doesn't say that in there, then it doesn't say that in there.
Okay, because that is interesting to me because in probation's response, they named the fact that it was a sex offense, being that that's one of the criteria for them. But this here said it's not the probation office, it's probation's criteria that needs to be met.
Mm-hmm.
It is the statute, or
Correct. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of broad statements, that are made because of course everything's written by a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's open to interpretation. It's not always going to be specific. And so when it's saying that in the statute, it doesn't say sex offenses, that is true. It doesn't, apparently. I can't say it's true. I would say it's true
Mm-hmm.
because it says it in here.
Mm-hmm.
But it does say satisfied that such action is warranted by the conduct of the defendant and in the interest of justice. So, okay, maybe it doesn't say that if you have a sex offense, you have to stop at go. Like you're not going to be moving anywhere. Your sentence is your sentence. If you're on probation, you're going to be on there for life, if that's what it's determined to be, and there's no room for any type of exception. Um, but it says in the interest of justice. And that is where they have to determine the severity of the crime that was committed. That's where that comes in. So it doesn't say sex offense, but if you read, well, we did read, but if you read the statement from the government, they outlined his crime in a pretty graphic way,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was perfect, because then that way it's a reminder. It's putting it all out there. It's saying, look what he did. He wasn't just having this silly little chat, for a few minutes, and then, he made a mistake and he drove over to the house. They're saying, look, he had this chat for 400 pages. It went over for a month.
Mm-hmm.
He was exposing himself constantly. Either it was close-ups of his genitals, or he was just walking around naked. They even brought up the white stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They brought up a lot of the points of the chat log that make everyone just go, oof, no, this is bad. So this wasn't just some little thing that Lorne can brush away and say, it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a very deliberate time where he was victimizing someone, and that can't be forgotten. And I think that that's what he tries to do all the time. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want it to be brought to his attention. What he did was really, really serious.
Yeah, and he wants to sugarcoat the contents of the chat log. He wants to victimize himself in it and forget about all the graphic sexual content, and pretend it was just out of desperation and loneliness and depression that he latched onto someone and fell in love.
Yeah.
How can you blame someone for falling in love? How can that be a crime? That's his way of explaining it.
Yeah.
But there was love isn't the question, isn't the problem. It was the attempted sexual abuse of a minor throughout the whole chat log. And you're right. He wants to brush it under the rug. He wants to pretend that it was much less serious than it was. That it was less evil and damaging, abusive to a child than it was, which is what his intention was, to ruin a
Exactly.
kid's life.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So we had another footnote come in here. So what that one said, in context of these criteria, so they're talking about the probation office's internal administrative office criteria. The probation office states that his, quote, noncompliance does not show an ability to lawfully self-manage beyond the period of supervision, end quote. But this is in contrast to the fact that the probation office has permitted Mr. Armstrong to travel out of the country unsupervised on more than one occasion, that there have been no known violations or issues around that travel, and that Mr. Armstrong's significant other and their child have also visited with Mr. Armstrong at his residence without any involvement or supervision by the probation office, and again, with no known violations or issues associated with that visit.
Oh no. What is happening? So Lorne went to Canada, right?
Well, it's saying that he traveled
That's where he
on
went.
more than one occasion.
He must have. So the baby mama is in Canada, and she has gone there to visit Lorne with their child, and probation didn't supervise?
That's what it's saying.
Oh man. I understand that Lorne's like safety plan, if he's around a kid, is that somebody needs to be completely aware of everything. Somebody needs to be there who is completely aware of everything that he did in order for him to be alone. So he can't be alone with the child. He has to be supervised. That was the plan before, at least. Who knows what it is now?
Yeah.
Um, That's really disappointing, honestly, that probation would let that all go unsupervised and they wouldn't be involved. What the fuck are they
Yeah.
doing?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this is obviously just a paragraph. So we don't know the entire context here, but certainly reading this is really disturbing.
Hmm.
It's really disturbing.
So, I mean, I was afraid of this when probation's response came back with no mention
Mm-hmm.
of the child. I was afraid that there was truth to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah. Um, because I feel like if it wasn't true or if there was any hint of catfish behind it or a lie or craziness, probation would have said something.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they didn't made me nervous.
Yeah.
And it seems like, I don't know, guys, it seems like something deeper is going on here. Um,
Yeah. I've got to say, when I read this the first time, my stomach sank. Like I got nauseous.
yeah, it's upsetting. It definitely is. It's upsetting to like I said, first of all, well, to very first of all, think that a woman would have a child with Lorne and let him be around that child, knowing everything about him. But also that probation does not seem to be doing their job in supervising. That there should be no unsupervised visits. I don't care. He's a convicted sex offender.
Yeah.
But that ugh, yeah, that's upsetting. I think my theory is that the Canada connection is, I don't think it's a coincidence.
Okay.
I think the weirdos from Canada hooked him up with a friend.
Okay. Yeah, it certainly could be.
Yeah, I think they, because how else is he going to meet a Canadian woman?
True. Yeah,
How
I
else
mean
is he
the
going to meet
chances of
somebody?
that, yeah, the chances of that are certainly low.
Yeah, she could be a letter writer, I guess,
Certainly. Certainly.
but
And what I was thinking too is that if that's the case, then if she was an independent letter writer, then sh I think the way that she would have gotten connected with his friends would be him introducing them
mhm.
and him telling them about her. So that and then they came together. I don't know.
At this point, the Canadian wife, hooked him up with a friend,
Okay.
and she went to see Lorne, and now there's a baby. Wow.
So we talked about this last time too, and how it doesn't matter what goes on in his life. It doesn't matter who's involved. I don't care if he has a girlfriend. I don't care if
Hmm.
he gets married. I don't care if he has three wives. It doesn't matter. Um, the thing for me is that there's a child who's being placed in front of him. I don't care how old that child is. 6 months old, whatever, and you say, oh, he's not going to hurt a baby. His crime's not against a baby. The thing is that Lorne should not know about this child. This
Hmm.
child should have absolutely no contact whatsoever. The best case scenario that could have happened here is he met someone, whether that was a friend of the Canadian couple or someone who was a letter writer who decided that she wanted to have sex with Lorne and oops, she got pregnant. The best case scenario is that he would never know,
Hmm.
like Carrie.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. they're long distance, there would be no reason for her to
Mm-hmm.
let him know. She would
Yeah.
never have to let him know. It's not like she's living down the street in Cornville and he's going to see her with a baby carriage
Right.
like Carrie. um,
Right.
yeah, she, if, God. But you have to ask yourself, what kind of woman would have sex with Lorne?
Mm-hmm.
How good are her decision making skills?
Sure. I mean, clearly, clearly there's something there. Um, but even with that being the case, who cares?
Hmm.
That's not our problem. That's her problem. But the fact that there is a child who is allowed to be in his presence is sickening. It's so sickening. This is how shit happens.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. What is probation doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would love to know. I would love to know, what did you do? Was this truly unsupervised? Was this truly without, any involvement on their part? I mean, because this is just a paragraph.
Hmm.
And I don't think that it's just full of lies, but at the same time, there has to be a response to this.
If if that's true and probation had no involvement, no supervision, then Lauren's lawyer has a good point. If he needs to be on probation so badly, why didn't you keep an eye on this visit with a child?
Well, certainly, that can be an argument. Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand that. I
No.
don't understand that. How can you allow a child in front of him? He should not have any access whatsoever. No phone calls, no video calls, no photos,
Right.
no
He's such a
nothing.
threat. He's a threat to children. He's a threat to the community, which is why he needs to continue being on supervised release, on probation, and why he needs to continue his sex offender treatment class. But let's let him have unsupervised visits with a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That
I mean, it's a good point. It's
Mhm.
I mean, I don't agree with it. I think he does need supervision. I think probation is dropping the ball. They need to answer for why.
Yeah. Yeah, there needs to be an answer as to what actually happened.
Hmm.
What happened here?
I mean, probation in their response, they were quite vague about um, the reasons why Lauren needs to be on probation still. I mean, they outlined it, but they didn't. Again, Lauren's lawyer was right when they said at times he's been so disruptive, but they didn't say when. They should have outlined all these things much more clearly and given clear examples. I think they also should have brought up the failed polygraph test and what he failed for and what
Right.
he admitted during those failed polygraphs. They left all that out. And I know polygraphs aren't admissible in court, but that's not what they're trying to do. Like they
Right.
got the admissions out of him with the polygraph. So they're not using the polygraph results, against him. They're using his own admissions against it, or they should be.
Mhm.
They should be. I mean, God, we could write an amazing response to Lauren's motion.
Yeah, definitely.
The phone
Definitely.
sex call with the decoy that he
Mhm.
did, remember that?
I do.
I'd bring that up. I'd bring his relationship with Rhoda up. There's so many things.
Well, one of the points that they bring in here, though, and I think it goes to time, is that all of that was prior to his latest prison sentence.
Yeah, okay. I mean, but it doesn't just reset when you go to prison.
They're kind of trying to say that in here. Not that just because you went to prison, but when they came to their agreement.
Mm, yeah, because they told him at that revocation hearing, if you cut this shit, we will consider letting you off probation. Or, right, something like that. If there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I believe was said.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe Lauren's lawyer said, Lauren's looking for some light at the end of the tunnel
Mm-hmm.
and getting off supervised release. And the judge said, well, yeah, if he can demonstrate um, that he doesn't need to be supervised, then, we'll consider that at some point.
Well, I think that goes along with that statute, though, of saying that someone can be up for consideration of that after 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that the judge can say, you're never getting off of that.
Right, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So let's see what else is in here. Oh my goodness.
I'm mad.
No, absolutely. And I am too. I am too. I'm mad at this mother.
Oh, forever.
You know?
Absolutely.
So I'm
Yeah.
mad at this mother. And of course, because he's still under probation, I want to know an explanation
Mm-hmm.
of what were these circumstances that this happened?
Yeah.
How much were you involved? Because
Right.
I can't understand how it can be no involvement. Because if he didn't have something in place where like they knew who she was, there was some type of an established relationship where they know everything about her, then I mean he could have traveled anywhere at any time.
When he was asking for permission to go see Casey,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to talk to Casey and get her social security number, her address, like all kinds of identifying information that only Casey would have.
Right.
So I would hope they would do the same thing with this woman. But I'm mad at probation. I mean, obviously, I'm mad at this woman, but I've written her off as a sick freak of
Mm-hmm.
nature,
Mm-hmm.
just a fucking freak that you can't. She's like Lorne.
Mm-hmm.
She's irredeemable. Um, I wouldn't expect anything differently from someone who would have sex with Lorne, someone who would bring a baby in his presence. Like there's something clearly wrong with her. She needs to be supervised
Yeah.
and monitored for sure. I really think that women who put their children near known predators should like it should be a crime. It's child endangerment, right?
It is. Yeah.
I think it should be like a punishable offense. Take the kid away. Obviously they're not looking out for the best interest of the child.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I don't see how it's not.
I don't see how it isn't either. I don't see how it isn't either. I don't understand it.
But I mean, she's a sick weirdo. Like
Well, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But
clearly.
probation are not sick weirdos. Probation
Mm-hmm.
know. They know what can happen I'm sure they've seen it time and time again.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Dealing with sex offenders, what happens if you let them around children
Yeah.
unsupervised? What the fuck are
Mm-hmm.
they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
It's their responsibility to keep to keep people safe from Lorne.
Yeah. Well,
Take
what I'm
that.
hoping at the end of this is that there's a hearing,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping that there's going to be more that's going to come out before the
That's what would
judge
happen
denies
next,
the
right?
request. I don't
I mean,
know that there doesn't have to be a hearing. The judge can make a ruling.
uh-huh.
But what I'm hoping is that he's going to want to hear more.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
But they don't they're not going to just keep going back and forth with responses to each other like this. Like the next step would be a hearing.
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Unless, again, the judge would make an order on just what he's already seen here.
Mhm.
But certainly, I do hope that there's a hearing so that there can be more of an explanation. because there definitely needs to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look here. Now, where we left off, I'm just checking because I do see another footnote here. And so we were just talking about the how the court has leeway to consider him to be removed after 1 year, and how Lorne acknowledges the violations that supported his one prior revocation nearly 5 years ago. So he's acknowledging the violations now,
Mm-hmm.
just like he took responsibility when he signed the plea agreement before his first prison sentence.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that he acknowledges the violations in the same way.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, you remember when he got sent back to prison, he was talking about he's going to take it high profile.
Yes.
He didn't even do anything wrong. They're fucking with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's just an innocent man being destroyed by
Yeah.
probation for no reason.
Exactly. So then there's a footnote that comes with this one, and it said the probation office also states that defendant has not remained in substantial compliance with all conditions of his supervision, but again does not provide any information concerning the timing of this purported noncompliance. It's impossible to know if it's referring to conduct before or after Lorne's one revocation.
Yeah, I mean they should have gone into more specifics.
I would have to say that that's what's going to be coming.
I hope so.
It has to. It has
I
to.
mean, unless they just thought that would be enough from
Mm-hmm.
them to convince a judge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is important to point out the things that have happened since his revocation, namely the failed polygraphs about minors
Right.
and the admissions about those minors. Those are big deals. Lorne admitted to fantasizing about 14, 15-year-old girls from high school.
Yeah.
Even younger. It said ages 10 to 14.
Wow.
He admitted that. He told them that he did that and thought it wasn't really that big of a deal because he was their age when they
Right.
were
At
that
that
age.
time. Right.
Yeah.
Which
But
is
it's like
ridiculous.
absolutely ridiculous. Lorne was a toddler once too.
Mm-hmm.
Can he pull out a picture of preschool or, daycare
Yeah.
and jerk off to the little girls from that because he was the same age as them back then? There's something wrong with somebody who thinks like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows his lack of progress in treatment as well. And it shows that he still has these compulsions to think about little girls like that,
Yeah.
which is why he needs to be monitored. He is a threat to the community and he needs to be in sex offender treatment class.
Yeah.
I think that's something that they should have. I don't know, maybe it gets sticky if they start talking about polygraph tests. Maybe that's why they didn't mention it. I kind of feel like probation was a little bit lazy in their response.
It's possible. I don't know how much can be included though in a response. I mean,
Hmm.
they're just filing a response. It's not going to be something that is, 500 pages long.
No, I know. I guess I feel like it didn't have to be. Maybe it could easily become 500 pages if you're putting down everything. But it's like how they said Julie agrees with the government, with the probation office, but they didn't say why exactly. Just that she agrees.
Sure. And I think that that's where the judge can come back and say, well, what does that mean?
Hmm. I hope so.
You know? So that's what I'm hoping as well, that there's going to be hearing, that everyone's going to be marched in that courtroom and they're going to answer questions and provide evidence and argument as to, why they believe that he should still be on probation, which of course we agree with. But here's the
Mm-hmm.
reasons why. Here's the explanation. So he's saying in this argument here that you're not giving a time frame, and you're not saying if these things that have happened before or after his revocation,
Mm-hmm.
because it sounds to me like he's saying if it was before, he can't include it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But he certainly has had issues after, and we know that.
Big issues, yeah. Not things that he was arrested for. It seems like the only thing he's going to be arrested for is drinking,
Yeah.
but it was a big enough issue that they went and searched his trailer.
Yeah.
And they weren't looking for alcohol. They were looking for pornographic material of kids because he failed a polygraph test for looking at images of minors.
For sexual reasons.
Right.
Right.
That is a humongous deal.
Yeah. So let's continue with this because I think it's going to get into the reason why they believe, Lorne should be released based
Okay.
on what the court said before. So, as the court likely observed, Mr. Armstrong's May 8th, 2024 motion tracked the court's advice to him at his last revocation hearing that at some point the court might entertain the possibility of terminating his supervised release early. To do so, however, the court made clear that Mr. Armstrong would have to, from that point forward, keep his nose clean, maintain a straight line, stop bothering the probation office, stop drinking, and not be dishonest with the probation office.
Boom.
Yeah. Mr. Armstrong respectfully submits that the government and the probation office have not, in response to Mr. Armstrong's motion, suggested that Mr. Armstrong has not done any of those things since he last appeared before the court. In other words, he's complied with the advice the court provided him at that time. So this is what we were just talking about. These criteria. Keep his nose clean. Okay, well, he hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been drinking.
True.
Maintain a straight line. Again,
Whatever
he
that
hasn't.
means.
Yeah, I think it goes along the same line. You're not getting into trouble. And the next one, stop bothering the probation office. I mean,
Well, that is very subjective. That is a broad term. And I would argue that he has not stopped bothering the probation office. So that one hasn't been met.
True. Stop drinking, which he did, and not be dishonest with the probation office, which didn't occur.
Well, that's the big one. So stop bothering the probation office. Like I said, that's kind of subjective to what that means, or kind of vague. But think of all the times they told him to stop talking to his catfish. They had to force him to change his phone number and take down the posters of Jamie.
Yeah.
And then they told him, you can't talk to her, Lauren, don't talk to her. He started talking to her again. Now, I know they can't necessarily revoke him for talking to someone on the phone, but again, it all ties back to the fact that her age could not be verified.
Right.
She wouldn't give her real name to probation. He continued to talk to her even after he told probation that her name was Jamie Amy Boutte. And they told him, no, Lauren, no such person exists by that name. You can't. And I feel like that should have been, I don't know if they made that very clear to him, that that's the reason. It's not just, hey, Lauren, these people are fucking with you. They're lying to you. They're putting you online. Like, that's not a crime either. So, I mean, probation's interest in that, where that goes, I don't know. But the problem, like I said, is that he could be talking to a child. He could be sending pictures of his dick to somebody who's underage. She speaks with a robot voice.
Yeah.
And they knew that too. According to Lorne, at least, he told them that. So he could be talking to literally anybody, as
Yeah.
we know. Now, we know it was a grown man with a long beard, but it could have been a 13-year-old boy. It could have been a 13-year-old girl. It could have been a 10-year-old. It could, he can't verify, is the point.
Right.
And that goes back to his original crime. And I would think that that would be the big reason why probation didn't want him talking to people that he met online.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now,
then, of course, there's the dishonesty. I mean, where we could go on and on.
I know there's so much of that. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of dishonesty. But then again, you want to talk about being vague here. How vague is keep your nose clean, maintain a straight line, stop bothering probation, stop drinking, and not be dishonest with probation. It's pretty vague,
Yeah, the
isn't it?
only, absolutely it is. That's what I mean. What is, whatever that means, maintain a straight line. Does that mean um, just generally stay out of trouble?
Yeah,
And again, staying out of trouble, what does that mean? Just not getting arrested? He hasn't gotten arrested. Don't
right.
drink? He hasn't drank. But that doesn't mean he's been compliant with probation and
Exactly.
sex offender treatment. That's the thing.
And that's a very, very important part of this is his sex
Hmm.
offender treatment.
Right.
He's
The
failed
only,
class time and again.
yes, absolutely. He refuses to take anything the class has said up until very recently, where they told him to meet a real, get away from the online people,
Hmm.
meet a real person. The only specific part of that was to stop being dishonest with probation, and he did not. He failed to be honest with probation. I would cite the failed polygraph test as evidence of that.
Right, and the
and
admissions that he
and the
made.
admissions,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And they did mention that very briefly, probation did,
Hmm.
that he had failed polygraphs and then admitted that he had lied on the polygraph test, but they didn't say why. They didn't say what the questions were, and I
Hmm.
that makes me disappointed that they didn't, because those are important things.
Hmm. All right, so let's see what else this part says. The government, in a footnote, argues that mere compliance alone with the terms of release does not qualify a defendant for such a remedy, citing United States versus McKay. Mr. Armstrong states in reply that more than mere compliance qualifies him for this remedy at this time. As the probation office concedes, Mr. Armstrong has started his own business.
Hmm.
He he's also become a father, and always looming over this particular case, which likely is not present in many, if any, other cases, is the existence of, in the probation office's words, the harassment the defendant has been subjected to at the hands of many online groups. Indeed, on information and belief, the substance of Mr. Armstrong's May 8th, 2024 motion was disseminated within these online groups within hours, if not minutes, of its filing. Release of Mr. Armstrong from supervised release may permit Mr. Armstrong the freedom to physically relocate to a location unknown to these groups. While there is no guarantee that since these groups are spectacularly, thank you, dogged in their pursuit and harassment of him, it might at least provide him the chance to move forward.
What about the sex offender registry?
Well, they don't make any mention of that.
Because he's ordered to be on the sex offender registry for life.
Yes.
And that's part of being on the sex offender registry, that your address needs to be public information.
Mm-hmm.
However, I believe in Canada, the sex offender registry is not publicly available, which makes
Okay.
me wonder, what is the fucking point? What's the point of having a sex offender registry if normal citizens can't access it?
Sure. Yeah. How would anybody know?
Right.
How is the public alerted? That's the whole point of having
That's
it.
the
You're
whole point.
absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah. Which annoys me. But I mean, that apparently that I think that's what the lawyer is trying to say. He wants to relocate. Would
Hmm.
Canada let him move there though?
If he
They
is,
let him visit.
yeah, I mean, he apparently they allowed him to visit while he's actively on probation.
Hmm.
Now that's apparently, you know,
Right. Well, it said they let him travel out of the country.
it.
Where else is he gonna go?
I don't know. I don't
And
know.
he asked permission to go to Canada.
He
I
did.
mean,
He did.
I think
Yeah.
it's pretty obvious.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, it is. I don't know. I feel like I need to see more
Hmm.
in order to actually understand what happened here. Because all of these are just statements. You know, there's nothing here. I think a lot of it comes from Lorne, which we know is a problem. So when you say he went, you know, what does several times mean? Like what is that?
Right.
How long were these stays? Was anybody with him? So,
Yeah.
you know, what does supervision mean exactly? Is it because they didn't have an officer with him? Is it because there wasn't some type of probation um, in Canada, which I guess there wouldn't be? You know, I don't know how that works. I know
No idea.
obviously if he was going to be traveling to California, for example, then they would have to get in contact with a California probation officer who he would
Hmm.
be handed over to during his visit. And that was one of the criteria that he had mentioned. Um, who knows who he was talking to? Winnie, the original Casey, who knows?
Hmm.
But there have been many attempts to travel. And that was one of the stipulations that he said. And it
I
makes
don't think
sense.
I don't think that was mentioned in the newest Casey though,
It may
in
not
his
have been,
request
sure.
to go to California.
Yeah.
So I wonder if new probation officer, new stipulations, you know, like maybe he was dealing with a different probation officer the first Casey around when they said he would have to um,
He would be handed
get in
over to
contact.
another one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I believe that was Maria.
Well, Maria did hate him. She lied 9 times
9 times up
about
on the
him.
stand.
So
Yeah.
she's probably just being a fucking bitch.
But at this point, though, isn't Mitchell his probation officer again?
Mitchell or Stacy? Oh, it's Mitchell, right? It's
I
yeah.
think
The
so.
because
Yeah, yeah, it
the
is.
response was from Mitchell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I do know it says the probation said mere compliance isn't enough to let you off probation. And Lauren said, more than mere compliance qualifies me. And the more than mere compliance includes that he started his own business and he's become a father and he's got a bunch of weirdos who harass him. Those are the ways that he has more than complied with probation.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
By getting some moron pregnant
Mm-hmm.
um, and reselling garbage pallets that he finds out by dumpsters
Yeah.
and having harassers. It's like, did Lauren write this?
Well, certainly he had a lot of input. So you can
Okay.
only work with what you have, you know,
Mr.
garbage in,
Nixon,
garbage out.
yeah, that just doesn't make Mr. Nixon. I refuse to believe that you are, not smart enough to realize that they don't relate to each other. That has nothing to do with compliance.
Well,
Like him starting a
true.
business, him having a job, just maintaining employment
Mm-hmm.
is is enough. That's compliance. That he doesn't get extra points for starting his own business, for working for himself. It's just he just needs to work. They don't give a shit.
That's true.
You don't get extra points for
I know.
that has nothing to do with probation.
It has nothing to do with it. Yeah. That's exactly the point here. You're not complying with probation because you started a business. You're not complying with probation because you became a father. That has nothing to do with anything.
Nothing at all. And I would say when you're on probation for trying to sexually abuse a child, becoming a father probably isn't a good move. I mean, I know it's not against his probation to
Hmm.
have a kid, of course, but that probation wasn't saying, "Hey, Lauren, in order to comply with your terms, you need to go have a baby. You need
Well,
to
he's
go
like,
not
look, I
work
was in a
out."
face-to-face relationship. Get me out of here now.
Yep, I feel I'm surprised it doesn't say that.
I know. I finished the class. I had a
Yeah,
baby.
yeah, I finished the book. I had a baby. I have a face-to-face relationship. I've met her face-to-face at
Yeah,
least 2 times.
right.
Why am I still here?
And I would also be interested in the harassment the defendant has been subjected to at the hands of many online groups. Where's your examples of that?
Oh yeah, Mr. Well, his example was that we found out about it within hours or minutes. It's public
It's
record. I
public.
mean,
Yeah, it is.
it's public record. And talking about Lorne and his legal shit and speculating about what's going on after he engaged with the community for years and years and years, like almost a decade now,
Hmm.
isn't harassing him.
Right. Right.
We're talking about him. We're not no, I don't know if people, I'm sure people still do send mail to his house. um I doubt anybody's calling him, so he's not receiving that kind of harassment. I doubt
Hmm.
anybody has his phone number right now. I mean, that we know of, they don't.
Right.
But I mean, writing fan letters trying to get him to be your, allow them to be the next catfish, I don't think that qualifies as harassment. Sending him dildos, maybe, but
No, I
he keeps
understand.
them.
He keeps them, and he probably used it.
Oh God, you know what? So last time, or one of the last times we talked about a hearing. If there's a hearing, I'm gonna dress up like a journalist,
Yes.
and I'm gonna interview Lauren. I don't care about interviewing Lauren anymore. I hope the well, she probably wouldn't be because she lives in a different country, evidently. I want to interview the girlfriend.
You mean
I
you
want to
want to
talk.
confront the girlfriend?
I want to talk to that bitch. Yeah, I really do.
Sure, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. In particular, that has to do with the child.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I would also be interested to know what he would consider any losses that he had as a result of people from the internet contacting him.
I can name one.
What's that?
He was unable to sell those Beanie Babies
That's true.
because
Okay.
we found him on eBay.
Right.
I mean, and that was a good chunk of money that he lost out on. I have to
True.
admit.
Okay. All right. Well, there's one.
No, he blames everybody else for everything. If he doesn't get a job, it's because the internet freaks somehow telepathically found out that he was applying for a job at a
Hmm.
certain place and messed it up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, take R.C. Moore, for example. He worked at R.C. Moore. That was probably his longest job, which was like over a year,
Hmm.
which is very strange to say for somebody his age. But people from the internet didn't ruin that job. He did.
Can I mean, the same can be said for anyone who has a level of infamy and is hated because of something bad they did.
Mm-hmm.
Can Casey Anthony cry about how nobody wants to hire her? Because anytime somebody finds out that she's working somewhere, angry people call and say, "Hey, remember when she killed her kid? How
Yeah.
about, you don't support somebody like that?"
Mm-hmm.
Can Carla Homolka cry
Mm.
and say, "Oh, I get chased out of the neighborhood by the parents of the kids who go to school with my kids." Yeah, because you committed horrible crimes
Yeah.
and you raped and killed your little sister
Yeah.
and multiple other young girls. Like, whose fault is it when somebody is hated and targeted because of something horrible they did?
Mm-hmm.
And people want to make sure that the people in their community know who they are and what they did.
Didn't Carla change her name?
She did, but she got found.
Mm-hmm.
They her She married like a rich, I think she married a lawyer.
Okay.
She married, definitely was a lawyer. She changed her name. They had children, and then people found out who she was, and I don't know, went after her. Something about the kids' school. Like, people were saying they didn't want her kids going to school with their kids. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
want her around. I think she was like volunteering at the school too, or
Okay.
something disgusting and horrific.
Right.
But I mean, who's to blame?
Right. Right. Exactly. Um, it's
It's
kind of.
like Judge Woodcock said. I'm sorry. It's
Mm-hmm.
like Judge Woodcock said. You're not the victim of your own crime,
Exactly.
and I
Exactly.
think that
But
applies to
Lorne,
all of them.
yeah, Lorne is a victim of his own crime.
Hmm. Well, that's what his lawyer is trying to say.
That's exactly what he's trying to say. In his own involvement with the community, he's a victim of that as well.
Hmm.
And we've said it time and time again too. You can't control what other people are going to do. There's always going to be someone who's going to be sending him a card or a letter or trying to get his phone number. They're going to stop by and take photos or whatever, the case may be. But his involvement is what has created this entire world. All of these recorded phone calls wouldn't have happened without his involvement in them.
Right.
And he knew about them very, very early on.
It's also just a consequence of being on the sex offender registry, I have to say,
Mm-hmm.
because on the registry, your place of employment is going to be listed, and your address. And
Mm-hmm.
people need to know those things. They need to know who they live near and who they work with,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there was this guy at my work who worked in a different department, of course, but apparently he was on the sex offender registry. And my work was getting calls from people because it said on the registry his place of employment.
Mm-hmm.
My place of employment was getting calls, um, fucking with this guy, like
Mm-hmm.
trolling him, pretending they were police officers, trying to get him on the phone and scare him.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Like that, it's just, people don't like sex offenders,
Yeah.
and they're going to do stuff like that. It's just a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to fuck kids, I guess. And then people won't know your address, where you work, and that you tried to hurt kids. And then they won't want to hurt you or fuck with you, or,
Mm-hmm.
make your life a mess. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that ostracization is a natural consequence of committing a horrible crime like that.
Yeah.
So boo hoo.
Boohoo is right. Lauren boohoos a lot. Yeah. Speaking of the sex offender registry and how important it is, have you heard of Audrey Cunningham?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's this little girl, 11 years old, in Texas, I believe. And she was killed by a person who had previously been convicted of child enticement.
Mhm.
So this person was living on her property, her parents' property, in a camper, like in the backyard type of a thing. And this
Mhm.
person was known to, I think, her father. They said that they did a background check on him, and his charge never came up because of some kind of a loophole in the sex offender registry. Now, I
Mm.
haven't had a chance to look more deeply into it. He hasn't gone to trial yet. He's up for the death penalty. But there was some kind of a loophole that made it so that it didn't show up, so they didn't know. So they allowed him to live on his property. And one day, she didn't go to school. And I think it was something like 5 days later, she was found tied to a rope that was attached to a rock floating in a river.
Oh.
Yeah. So a sex offender registry is absolutely necessary.
Mhm. Are the parents trying to say that it's like the fault of the government basically for having this loophole so they couldn't have access to that information?
Well, they said that they never would have allowed him to be
Of
there,
course.
you
Well, I mean,
know?
probably not. We know
Right.
there are people who do,
Right,
but
exactly. Yeah.
and it.
But mhm.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was just saying that certainly that's going to be one of the arguments was that this information is necessary. I feel like this sounds from Lorne is it's a hate crime because I hate it. That's
Yeah.
how this reads to me. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, so people in the public have an adverse reaction to you and your crime. So we're supposed to temper that. We're supposed to tone it down and make sure that Lorne feels comfortable in society. I don't give a shit about how comfortable he is.
No, that's the point. He doesn't get
Right.
to be
He
comfortable
doesn't
anymore.
get to.
He doesn't get to
Exactly.
hide in the shadows. He doesn't get to pretend that this didn't happen. That's what he wants to do.
That's exactly what he wants to do. He wants to move away, and he thinks that that's going to fix things. Is it,
He does
Lorne?
think it's a hate crime.
He does.
He said that many times. If if you hate someone and you commit a crime, then it's a hate crime.
Yeah.
So if your ex-boyfriend cheats on you and like really pisses you off and you punch
Mm.
him in the face, that's a hate assault. It's a hate crime.
So literally, even though, of course, when Michael Scott says it, it's funny, right? Because it's Michael
Yeah.
Scott to say it's a
Hmm.
hate crime, so I hate it. Um, when Lorne says it, it's just like, you're like, wow, Lorne, you actually embody that statement. that's that's how you understand it.
Yeah, because he's a moron. He is a
Yeah.
dumb man.
And he's a victim. So it's like looking at a prison, for example, and we know that sex offenders are treated badly. They're at
Hmm.
the bottom of the pecking order.
Hmm.
So just because they face ostracization, whatever, I
I
can't
know.
say
I
that
can't
either.
say ostracization. I think I stumble over it too. It's a hard one.
Because they're ostracized and
Hmm.
um, are maybe harassed or bothered or name called or pushed around, or they have to be segregated because they're going to get murdered. Does that mean they should be let go?
Well, they're a protected class. You can't commit a
Hmm,
hate crime against them. I mean,
that's true.
that's really what he thinks too.
He does. He does think that. Yeah.
God,
I
an
know.
idiot.
I know. So No, it says while there's no guarantee that since these groups are spectacularly dogged in their pursuit and harassment of him, it might at least provide him a chance to move forward. Lorne, I feel like you may not understand still how the internet works. You're not going
Definitely
into
not.
witness protection, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's had the chance to move forward for almost a decade now, since Ramona.
mhm.
When he found out that, or let's throw all that away. Never mind. He's had a chance to move forward for 5 years since his last revocation. When Judge Woodcock told him, forget about the internet. You don't need it. Forget about don't talk to these people. Don't go online. If you don't see it, it won't bother you.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have nothing to do with it. If he stopped engaging with people, you know, we'd lose interest in there'd be no letter. People send him letters and send things to him because he responds
Right. And he's responded for years.
for years and years. Right. When Ramona was revealed to be live streaming and lying and her name wasn't even Ramona, if he'd cut it off then and said, nope, I'm not talking to any of you motherfuckers anymore, I know what's going on, there'd be nothing.
Right.
We'd still be listening to Ramona calls and
Mhm.
watching his segment of To Catch a Predator.
Yes.
That's all we'd have.
Yeah, that's all we would have. Exactly.
He he is responsible for feeding his quote unquote harassment.
Mhm.
He's fed it for years and years and years and played along with all of it against the advice of probation, of everyone,
Yeah.
of the judge, of every single person in his life. Stop talking to these people, Lauren. They're fucking with you. They're recording you. They're lying to you. They're making a fool of you. Just stop. But he fought every step of the way
He did.
up till Casey Morrow number 3, I think.
Mhm. And it
He
could
went and told them, I'm talking to Casey again, but it's the real one this time. I know
I know.
it.
And another important thing that Judge Woodcock said is you're not going to win. You're not going to win
Right.
against these people.
Never. They're never going to forgive you. They're
Mhm.
never going to think you're a good guy. People love their children.
Yeah.
People love children,
Mhm.
and they hate people who hurt children.
Mhm.
End of story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are you trying to do? To change people's minds with your cooking show?
That's exactly what he's trying to do. Yes,
Mhm.
with his singing. Yeah, the whole purpose of that channel was to overcome what NBC put out, to show
Mhm.
people that he's more than that. You know, I'm not a bad guy. Look at me. I'm juggling. That's exactly what he was trying to do. That was the whole point.
Mhm.
And then what he said, even I believe when he was talking to his mother, was after she said, "They're making a fool of you." She said, he said, "I don't give a fuck.
Mhm.
You know, if
As
I'm going to
long
make
as they give
money."
me money. Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what it came from. So he's looking at the community, at least at the beginning, as a money grab. He's like, wow, people are paying attention to me. They're subscribing to my channel. They're watching my videos. They're
Mhm.
wanting to talk to me. They're wanting to buy my stuff. So I'm going to put it up on eBay for what was his guitar was $2,000.
Oh, I can't remember. I don't know. I
I
wasn't
think it
around at that time yet, but I'm sure it was some enormous, ridiculous amount.
I think it was because people were looking at guitars from actual artists, you know, famous people like, you know, somebody like Dolly Parton.
Mhm.
Her guitar is not $2,000 up on eBay. You're like, well, Lorne Armstrong's is. He thinks
Yeah,
his is worth a lot more.
and probation mentioned that in their initial response that he um was interacting with these people, giving interviews. Didn't they mention him trying to sell his belongings
Yes.
to? Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's important that that is mentioned because he is acting like such a victim. of these people. He just wants us to leave him alone
Right.
and give him money and watch his cooking show
Right. And also like me.
and like me. And if any of you happen to be pretty young women,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can be my girlfriend.
Hit those comments. Didn't he say, was it to Ramona or Ember? What did he say? One of them said, "What are you gonna do? Go on YouTube or something?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. It was Ramona. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah. I'm gonna
think.
get laid or something.
Now, actually, I can't remember who he said it to, but one of
Mm-hmm.
them. Yeah, he said, I don't have a problem finding good-looking women, and whoever it was said, "Oh, the women from your YouTube channel? Yeah, why not?"
Yes, you're right. That's exactly it. That was the exchange. The exchange right
Yeah,
there.
and it must have been so hard. I think it was Ramona.
Uh-huh.
It must have been so hard for her to not say, "Yeah, Lauren, go talk to the women on your YouTube channel," because you want to tell him like they're laughing at you, they're fucking with you
Right.
because you don't want him to have that little smidge of hope or like that ego.
Yeah.
You want him to know, but you can't. You got to keep it going. I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, but at a certain point though, he was told that and he was made fun of. So when he would say, "Well, I'm going to go out, I'm going to call Rebecca." You're like, "Yeah, fucking Rebecca doesn't exist, you stupid
Hmm.
moron." I mean, so at a certain point, yeah. I mean, it would be thrown into his face and used against him to make fun of him. But that's how he saw it. And I think he probably still sees it that way. Of course, we don't know what his situationship is, at this
Hmm.
point. But he could very well feel that the internet is his playing field, where all he has to do is just get up there on YouTube again, start playing his songs, and people are going to be making comments. And he's not able to discern between what is a good comment and a genuine one and what's a bad one, from somebody
No.
who's making fun of him, making a fool of him. Any
Right.
type of praise is going to be a positive thing, even when it's disingenuous. And we know that it would be because we're the only people watching him.
Right. Right. Even when it's a quote from his chat log, like, "I would marry you right now. That's how special you are to me." Like, he is just so tone deaf
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't realize. Even Artsy Tiger spelled it out very clearly, very well worded. With Lauren, you have to say things in a very clear way to make things understood because he's so stupid. And Artsy Tiger did it. They did it well. And he still said, "So, is this person right? Am I just a joke or do you really like me?"
I know. Why are you asking those people?
Why are you asking the people who are lying to you and trolling you?
Right. What do you think they're going to say, Lauren? No, of course, Lauren. We want you here. Give us more. We can't get enough.
It's just so dumb.
It's like every single time he was told, stop talking to these people, he would go back
Mhm.
to these people and say, "Oh, they told me not to talk to you anymore. And
Yeah.
you're,
They said you're
you're
lying
recording
to
me."
me.
Yeah.
I'm not lying, Lorna. Your probation officer is best friends with the judge,
Exactly. Here's
and
a
they're
tweet.
lying to you. Yes, they're lying to you. Who's more trustworthy or believable? The person who has lied to you about their name, their identity, everything about themselves, Winnie, who started off as Casey
Yes.
and then turned into Wendy,
Yes.
or probation? Who's telling the truth here?
Well, the thing is that when Winnie is telling him what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
You know?
I know, but at what point I wish I could convince myself of things that aren't true just because I want them to be true.
Well, nothing's stopping you, is there?
Well, yeah, common sense,
Common sense, yeah.
a brain, my functioning brain stops me from
Well,
that. Like, you know, he will just make it his reality
yeah, I know.
and ignore, just push away every sign, everything that's screaming at him that it's not true. A robot voice, a
I
robot
know.
voice.
I know, but he
Because,
did he did get a picture of her in the moment beauty.
yeah, because of course, there's no way you could just get a picture from the internet and send
No.
it and say, this is me.
Right.
You can't.
Right, exactly. Um there's a footnote that goes along with this that I think you're going to find entertaining.
Okay.
Okay. It
Hmm.
says the probation office acknowledges that Mr. Armstrong has recently begun to resist the natural urge to engage with these groups.
Is that a natural urge?
That's what
Because
it
if
says.
if he, I would say that it is an incredibly unnatural urge.
I agree. I think if you were to say the natural urge to engage, it would be perhaps in a combative way, right? So if you're having a situation like this with Lorne, where he is being attacked everywhere on the internet, right? Everywhere he is on the internet, he's being attacked.
Hmm.
If he were to be the type of person, well, for example, like Stephen Coates,
Hmm.
I think James Rutherford's another one where if they find their names, they're striking you.
But if I were being mocked and made fun of and had horrible things said about me, it's like Judge Woodcock said, you're not going to win. There's no
Sure.
winning. So my thought would be to just pretend, just say, especially if I'm not allowed to go on the internet anyway,
Yeah.
who gives a shit? It's not like it was affecting, it's not like Lauren's mother goes on the internet and watches viral videos of him having phone sex with a robot. She didn't. His world is very small.
It
It's
is.
just the old people or the drunk people in his life.
Right.
So
Right.
he could have just ignored it. He really could.
No,
It's
of
not,
course. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. No, I mean that in a combative way. So if you wanted to be combative, you could be the type of person who's going to respond to everything, right?
Hmm.
You're going to start either striking channels or you could start leaving your own comments. So that could certainly be a natural urge, I think, is to perhaps defend himself
Hmm.
or tell us to all fuck off, you know. But what's interesting about that though is Lorne's natural urge is to find a relationship.
Is to look for a girlfriend or a way to make money.
Right. Right. So that's what to me makes that so funny is the natural urge to engage with these groups. It's almost like an addiction. You know, I
Well,
see it and I read that in the same way. It's just there's this urge that he's trying to fight.
hmm.
You know, he has to physically and he has to be in focus in order to say I'm not doing it. I
Got to
got this
resist the
letter.
urge.
Yep, I got
Yeah.
this letter. It smells nice. There's a little bit of perfume on there. um, I may want to call this person. I really want to call this person. But
Yeah,
no,
they,
I'm
I
not
could.
going to do it. I'm going to be strong. Not
They
going
probably want to be my girlfriend. They saw me
hmm
on To Catch a Predator 15 years ago, crying on the ground while I was getting arrested
Yeah.
for talking to a 13-year-old girl about Mr. Penis and Miss Vagina. She probably wants to marry me. I
Yes.
really want to call her and see where we can take this. Because that's a realistic thing. We know the urge comes from his desperation because he knows he can't meet a woman outside of the internet,
Mm-hmm.
of the group. And he knows as well, if he did just meet Jenny at Walmart and for some reason, like she's half blind or something, her nose doesn't work, um, and maybe she would give him a chance. She wouldn't, but pretend
Okay.
Jenny from Walmart might give him a chance. He's going to have the most uncomfortable conversation of his life, where he has to tell her what he did
Yeah.
and that he's known online. There's this footage of him being arrested that will be there forever and ever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
And he, knowing that he has to do that is enough to stop him from trying to have a real relationship. But the online women, they already know.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone's related to this community.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're reaching out to him. They know him because of this. It's not just because they saw his video or they saw him at the dump.
Yeah, they already know and they still want him.
Yes. Yep.
Because I
Exactly.
think that he never really understood with the Ramona stuff, with the Ember stuff. I don't think he ever really understood what it was all about. I think he still thought that that they Ember was obsessed with him,
Mm-hmm.
attracted to him. She
Yes.
was always hitting on him. Ramona must have had some kind of feelings for him because she spent 12 hours a day on the phone with him. And like he can't understand the point of doing it all just for a troll. I think he
Mm-hmm.
thinks if you talk to him, that means you like him.
Yes. And I think then as time went on, that meant as well, you may have started off as being a troll. Maybe you hated him at first,
Hmm.
but then you got to know him. So even when he had the very first conversations after that expose that Ramona did,
Hmm.
and he's essentially saying that I know you have feelings for me.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with Winnie too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that he has that type of a thought with any of the females, not the guys, but any of
No,
the women that
they're just a bunch of queers and weirdos. Yeah.
yes. But anybody that is a woman that was talking to him, they can show up again at any moment. Say, Lauren, I've been thinking about you. And I felt really bad that I was involved in all of that stuff. But I really enjoy talking to you, and I hope that we can do that again.
Yeah, I grew to really care about you and see
Yeah.
you for you, not what NBC put out there.
Yeah, we had a really good time talking.
Yeah, because in his mind, why would you talk to him? Why would you spend so much time talking to him if you truly hated him? I think
Exactly.
that's what he thinks. You know what it reminds me of? All those bad movies like from the early 2000s and the 90s where um, like the popular kid would get dared to take the ugly dorky girl to prom. So
Right.
he'd do it just to like make fun of her, just to fuck with her.
Uh-huh.
But then he'd fall in love with her when she took her glasses off.
That's all she had to do.
Yeah.
She
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 took her
took her
hair out
glasses.
of her
Yes.
pony.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. She took her hair out of her ponytail, took out her glasses, put on some lip gloss and stepped out of her overalls that she wears every day.
Yes, wore like a form-fitting dress and he fell
Yeah.
in love. And that's what Lauren thinks. They're seeing him without his glasses and his ponytail and they're falling in love.
Ponytail.
But what he doesn't understand, I think it's probably more like Carrie. Like, no, they didn't fall in love. They're just trying to
Mm,
fuck with you and pour
yeah.
pig's blood on you,
Yeah, you
Lauren.
better look up and
Yeah.
watch out where you step when you step into a room. There's not a
Hmm.
bucket of
Nobody
you.
wants you to be the real prom queen, Lauren. No.
No.
I don't think he's ever seen Carrie.
Probably not. Shockingly, I have.
I have too. Well, he
Yeah.
said he doesn't read Stephen King's books because his movies are terrible.
Did he
But
ever say
truthfully,
what he's
he
ever
doesn't.
watched, though?
No, he didn't. I don't think he's
Yeah.
watched anything. Casey said Stephen King's movies are terrible,
There
and
you
Lauren's like,
go.
yeah, that's why I don't read his books.
That's that's exactly what I was about to say. Someone told him
Yeah.
that they didn't like it, so therefore that means he doesn't either. That's
The
really
only book
funny.
he ever read was a book on Scientology because he couldn't find one on psychology. And Scientology kind of sounds like psychology. It has
Yeah.
an ology at the end.
It does. Yeah, the study
So,
of.
right. So they're pretty much the same in
Yeah.
learning about yourself
Mhm.
and your psychological state. Scientology is a fine substitute.
Agreed.
I don't
Agreed.
think he even read the book on Scientology, though.
I don't see how it would be possible for him to read it.
No, I think he'd get like a paragraph in and be like, "Huh? What?" Because they go into some weird shit in there. Like
Yeah.
that takes a different level of like
Yes, exactly.
understanding and
I know.
sort of spiritual jargon, which I don't think Lauren possesses.
And
He did say,
aliens. There's like, yeah. That's really what I
yeah,
know about Scientology is that there's aliens involved and they have crazy names and there's different levels.
and Tom Cruise is one. I
Tom
know
Cruise
that
is the highest level because, well, because he gives the most money.
because he's the richest. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't see how Lauren could possibly be reading that. I remember when I was scanning through, I think his journal, which we have to get to at some point.
Someday.
Yeah, he was saying that he was reading the Bible.
I was just thinking that. I was just about to say that he said he was reading the Bible and his goal was to like read all of it, all of the New Testament or something.
Yeah.
No fucking way.
No.
Absolutely no way. I tried to read the Bible and I'm a lot smarter than Lauren. I'm just gonna
Hmm.
say it. Um, First of all, it's fucking boring. Sorry. It's really boring. And I mean, Lauren's reading level, there is no way he read the Bible.
No, there's no way. It's definitely not written in a way of somebody who can just sit down and read it.
Hmm.
You know, I think that that yeah, it's not. I mean, he's not going to pick up just a standard Bible and be like, I think I'm going to start reading Genesis today.
No.
You know, and he says day number 1. You know. And when he finishes, he's like, "Wow, that was amazing." You know.
When I picture him reading the Bible, I picture him just opening to a random page,
Hmm.
reading a couple passages in there that make no sense to him because he
Yeah.
hasn't read, right, like you said, it's not like he started at the beginning and is understanding. He's just reading words but with no comprehension or understanding, and he's like, well, I read some of the Bible today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you, I'm going to make a declaration here and say that I'm smarter than Lorne.
Hmm.
And I grew up Catholic.
Hmm.
And going to church and having to listen to, them reading from the Bible, I often would just be like, what? What are you even saying? Even as an adult, what are you
Yeah,
saying?
definitely.
I don't know what you're saying.
Hmm.
So somebody like Lorne is not going to understand. So I think that's really hilarious that he mentioned that.
I do too, but it's so stereotypical.
Hmm.
Everybody in prison or jail reads the damn Bible. That's when you want to get close with God, when you need his help.
Right.
When you're
Right.
locked up and you did something terrible,
Hmm.
that's when you got to talk to, get your relationship right with God and work on that forgiveness.
Lauren, Lauren goes to the bathroom in the middle of the night and he says, "Dear God, it's me,
It's me,
Lauren."
Lauren. Exactly.
Oh, and
Well,
he's just,
yeah, think about it. You're in a desperate situation. You're in jail. Like
sure.
it fucking sucks. That's when you're going to be praying. praying to God
Yeah.
that your next court date will go well and
Yes.
they'll let you out.
Right. You're praying for miracles.
Yeah.
That's when you're going to just be like, well, I have nothing else to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So
Maybe
I'm
I'll
going to
try
pray for a
God.
miracle.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
God
God.
will help.
Is God real? It could be. I hope so. Here it goes. Let's crack open that Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, God won't care if I tried to fuck a kid. God knows I wouldn't have done it.
Right. I didn't want to.
God knows I never even meant to do it.
Yeah. I'm one of God's children and I'm perfect in his image.
This was so ironic and funny about convicted like prisoners and their Bible study and their like it's too late.
I know.
You should have read the Bible before. It's too late.
I can't wait until the next time we do parole hearings. They talk about their Bible study, and I want to just to have like a moment and just be like, okay, here's the timestamp where Amanda James's head is going to explode, and just
Yeah, I
wait
mean,
for it
say
to
that.
happen. I know it does. I know it does.
God doesn't want you anymore,
Well,
prisoners.
you know what it is. It feels like a cop out.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they're trying to make themselves look good in the eyes of the parole board. That's what makes a model prisoner. I go to Bible study. Who gives a fuck if you go to Bible study? I go to AA. Who gives a fuck? What else are you going to do?
Hmm.
Jerk off all day? I mean, you
Could
probably
be.
do that too. You go to Bible study, then you come in and jerk off.
Yeah.
Nobody's impressed. You're in prison.
Right.
There's nothing else to do. Go to Bible study when you're a free man instead of committing crimes. And maybe we'll be impressed. I mean, I won't be impressed, but
No, you will not
maybe somebody will be
be.
impressed.
So, so in conclusion, here's conclusion. Would you like to read the conclusion?
Let me find it. Yes.
Okay.
Wherefore, for all of the foregoing reasons, Mr. Armstrong respectfully asked this court to grant his motion and terminate his supervised release effective immediately. Respectfully submitted, James S. Nixon.
The end. So, yeah, so there it is, everybody. There is Lorne's response to the response. So, it wasn't everything that we ever dreamed it could be. Because it brought up something very disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very disturbing. Um, yeah, I definitely want to know more. So I'm really hoping that there's going to be a hearing so we can grab that transcript and also that you can make your debut.
Oh no!
You
Now
know,
I'm put on the spot.
you're put on. You're shy.
You're shy. Well, I kind of put myself on the spot. I need to get. So I have my outfit all picked out.
Oh, good.
Like I want like a kind of like an '80s reporter.
Okay.
So like a bright red pencil skirt and a matching blazer with shoulder pads. Um, and really high pointy heels.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have it all picked out. I needed a haircut to have like a bob.
You're committed. That's commitment right there. Amanda
I need
James is
to
going to
look the
cut her
part.
hair.
Lorne is really smart. He will know if I don't look like an 80s like journalist from a Lifetime movie.
Oh, so you're saying even though he watches the news all the
Oh, okay.
time,
Well,
right?
that's true. You got me. You got me. Okay, I can dress like a modern journalist then. I wanted to do the 80s though.
You
I
still
wanted the shoulder
can.
pad. Okay.
We would absolutely never tell you that you cannot be an 80s journalist. I would never.
Okay. I was worried.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
And then I'm going to get in a fist fight with his girlfriend.
Oh my God. And with Lorne. Because I feel like if you were going to start swinging, anything and anyone in the way is going to get hit.
Well, Lorne protects women, so
That's true.
maybe he would fight me to protect his
He would
woman.
fight you. Yeah. I would be scared. Scared.
I'm not scared of Lorne.
Oh my
I'll
goodness.
make him cry. Slap him with a flip flop.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. What if he starts to growl like Mr. McGee?
Grrr! That does sound scary. I might back up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah.
Well, yeah. Um, well, I hope you're right. I hope there is a hearing. I mean, I guess it depends on the judge. It just depends on the judge whether he thinks this is sufficient enough information to either say no, you can't get off probation, Lauren. Probation
Mhm.
says you can't get off because you suck.
Yeah.
So I agree with them. Or if he agrees with Lauren, I don't think he'll agree with Lauren.
Yeah.
I don't think Lauren will get off probation. Um, you never know, though. I mean,
No.
there were people who are swearing to God that he did not have a baby, and I don't know. I don't believe that anymore. I was really hopeful that it was just a catfish, and maybe
Yeah.
it started out as a troll,
Mhm.
not a catfish, because a catfish is saying you're somebody that you're not.
Mhm.
But maybe it started out as some weird troll, but it's gone beyond there. I think there's some truth to it, obviously.
Absolutely. Yes. There is truth to it because it's in there.
Hmm.
And it's saying that they visited
They
several
visited him, he
times.
visited them, right?
Yeah. How can you Okay, let's just talk about a visit. And we mentioned this in the last video as well because it's such a ridiculous idea to bring a baby into that residence.
Hmm.
The thing isn't livable. It looks condemned. The realtor who went there thought it was condemned, wouldn't even go inside to take photos.
Hmm.
And Lorne was so embarrassed by the way that it looked. He said there were squatters in there for 3 years. Like, oh, yeah, look at that piece of shit.
That is so
Isn't
funny.
that funny? He's been living there the whole damn time. And he's pretending like, look what they did to the place.
A woman who was living in her vehicle
Yeah.
would not even stay there.
Mhm.
So not only did she refuse the shipping container, which of course Lauren said that he offered to let her sleep on the couch in
Of
the trailer, and
course.
she said, "Fuck no,
Of
I'm fucking
course.
out of here."
Yeah.
This is a homeless woman who was in bed cuddled up with drunk Roy.
Hmm.
So her standards are not high. Make no mistake, her standards are really, really not high. I
Yeah.
think she probably went and found a semi new dumpster and made home in that
Hmm.
after that. Like, and it was so bad that she did not want to be anywhere on that property.
Yeah.
Or she was looking at the chicken coop as a viable option over
Yeah.
Lauren's couch inside the trailer.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder what kind of woman is going to go to that, not only go to that trailer on her own, but bring her baby there.
I know. That's what really blows my mind. It does. He smokes in there
Hmm.
constantly.
Yeah. I mean, think of just safety issues. Some There are women who smoke around their babies.
Yes,
There
there
are
are.
women who
Yeah.
smoke while they're pregnant.
Hmm.
There are shitty, scummy women.
Hmm.
But even if the smoke wasn't enough to deter her, you take a look at that place, it looks like you're going to fall through the floor or the ceiling is going to fall on your head.
Yeah.
There's something really wrong with any woman who would bring a baby there. just everything combined. The state of the trailer, the state of the property.
Yeah.
It looks like you are going to need a tetanus shot just from stepping foot there. But also the fact that you are going to stay with a registered sex offender, convicted
Mm-hmm.
sex offender,
Mm-hmm.
child predator.
Yep. So obviously, this person has the same view as Lorne does. He didn't mean to do it. He was messed up at the time. He wasn't actually going to do anything with her. He's never hurt a kid. All of those things, that's just ridiculous that anyone would think that I would really do that.
Or maybe she thinks it's okay to have sex with 13-year-olds.
I
Maybe
didn't
she
even want
shares
to think
that
that.
view.
But you're right, it could be.
Maybe she shares the view that teenagers can fall in love. 13's a teenager, right?
Yeah.
They fall in love. Maybe she remembers when she was in love when she was a teenager. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
she had an older boyfriend when she was 13. There are women like that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I hadn't even considered that. I just imagined that she was making excuses for him.
Because that's what, in order for us to even imagine it, that's what we would have to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
To say, no, there's no way he would actually do that to a kid.
Yeah.
There's no way that he would. I can't even entertain that because it's so evil and vile and horrible. There's no way. Look at him. He's laughing. He's being goofy. He
Mm-hmm.
writes me poems. He wouldn't want to do that to a kid. There's
Yeah.
some misunderstanding here. But maybe not. Maybe I don't think it's that bad that he talks sexually. I was having sex when I was 13.
Mm.
I don't think that's that bad.
Yeah. No, it certainly could be. Yeah.
I feel like you would have to feel that way deep down in order to be with a man like Lorne. Because how could you look at any of the evidence? How could you look at the chat log and convince yourself that he didn't really want to go? Or that
Well,
he
you,
was just messed up at the time?
you wouldn't look at the evidence. You would take his word for it.
But if the thought of doing that to a kid is so repulsive to your brain, I mean, who could not look at the evidence or want to know the truth? I have a bad feeling there's something wrong with this woman, really, really
Mm-hmm.
wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's more than just, I, she'll blindly make excuses for Lorne. When it's your own baby that's at risk, somebody else's word of I was messed up at the time isn't good enough.
I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I mean
Because
when I say that. I mean, kids need to be protected at all costs.
I wonder if she would feel differently if, that's why I want to talk to this dirtbag. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if she would feel differently if Kayla had been 4 years old rather than 13 years old. Because they're both children, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're both innocent and they both deserve to be protected from men who are almost 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say equally. Hurting a 4-year-old is as bad. Like, you leave them alone.
Mm-hmm.
They're off limits. Children are off limits. It's damaging. It's destructive to both of them.
Yeah.
But there are people who don't agree with that, and they see teenagers like on the brink of puberty as close enough to sexually mature, close enough to an adult.
Yeah, close enough. They're curious.
Hmm.
They're learning about sex in school. They know what it is. Kids are maturing quickly, right?
Well, like I said, some 13-year-olds are having sex.
No, sure, absolutely.
Kids having sex with other kids is one thing, but a 37-year-old man taking advantage of and preying on a 13-year-old is a whole other story. But
Right.
people are fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
they think in fucked up ways.
No, they do. I mean, so what Lorne is doing is when he says that kids can fall in love too, is he's equating, someone who's 14 and someone else who's 14.
Mhm.
and they're having sex or whatever they're doing is the same thing as him talking to Kayla at 13 or Molly, who was
Mhm.
probably around 14ish when he
Mhm.
started with her. That's the same thing as talking to a man who's in his 30s. The
Yeah,
feelings
I
are the
think
same, right? That's what he
right.
thinks.
I think he thinks close enough to an adult.
Mhm.
They're close enough because they can fall in love. They're curious, just like you said, they're curious about sex. We were there for each other. It's a relationship of peers. They're close enough to adults.
Yes.
It's like when he said to Casey, "You wouldn't have sex with a 17-year-old kid if you could get away with it."
Mhm.
Who the fuck thinks that way?
I know, Lorne, clearly. Other people like him.
I also really want to know how old this woman is.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking she's young.
Like 20s?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking she's young and stupid. So say there's a 20-year-old. She's lived, and I'm totally speculating here. I'm just making up a story in my head. But
Yeah.
there's a 20-year-old girl. She is super fucked up, or 21, 22, early 20s. She had a really fucked up life. Maybe she was sexually abused by
Mhm.
an older man, but she thinks he was her boyfriend.
Mhm.
Maybe she was exposed to sex at a really young age. For whatever reason, she gets hooked up with Lorne. I don't know why anybody would see anything in Lorne. I mean, just physically. Get rid of all the other stuff.
Mhm.
Just fit, but whatever. I don't know. Um, and like I said, she had literally been groomed from a young age to think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's cool when older guys like younger girls. It means they think we're mature.
Mhm.
It's flattering when older guys, which I mean, it happens a lot. And that's part of the grooming process is teaching them that not only is it okay, it's we're in love, and you should be flattered because I see you as a peer. I see you as a grown up like me, not some
Yeah,
little kid.
you're special.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think we'll see a lot of that in the Madeline Soto case.
Oh,
Yeah. So that could be something that we can look into, but I think we're going to see a lot of that because it happened so young with her with the same guy.
hmm.
He was grooming her, absolutely. And I've heard that too. And I can't even point in the direction of who said it, but there was someone who said that they started having this game when she was young. And her mother was involved at first, but then it became something, I don't know if it was her mom's boyfriend or stepfather or something like that. And then it turned into it was him, and they were playing this game and it was fun. And she didn't realize until later on that it was messed up.
Oh.
She had no idea because she had been groomed. And I think
Hmm.
that's what happens, especially from a very young age, is that it's being taught that this is okay. And even
This is
though,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I think we're going to see that a lot in the Madeline Soto case. And just like you said, I think that someone who's going to be making excuses for someone like this has something fundamentally wrong with them. Um, it reminds me, I just saw body cam footage of an 89-year-old man. He was called, the cops were called by his neighbor because that man had gone to this neighbor with his laptop and said, I have this program on here. I want you to delete it. And so the guy is like, okay. So he takes a look at this laptop and he sees some type of a program. I don't know what it is. Of course, they didn't say it. But there were tabs open. And on the tabs, one of them was in relation to a toddler.
Oh no.
And so the guy took the laptop, he handed it to him and he said, "Get out of here." Um, Now, of course, you would say, "Well, why did you give it back to him? You should have
Mhm.
taken the laptop and walked into your house. What is he going to do? Run after you? He's
Yeah.
89." But anyway, so he calls the cops. And so the cops go over to this neighbor's house, and he had attempted to set the laptop on fire. He was so desperate to destroy this laptop and destroy this program, that he was going to set it on fire. He didn't know what else to do. Well, he was unsuccessful. He didn't actually end up doing it. So he's just this old man sitting in his garage, and the cops come up and they're like, "What's going on?" Because they had already talked to the neighbor, and the neighbor
Mhm.
told him what he saw. He said, "I didn't click on anything. I didn't see what it was. I just saw the tab and I left it. I didn't want to have anything to do with it." And that's when he called the police. So they're like, they go over there, and by that time, this man's wife was there. And she was an older woman, but she wasn't 89. So she's sitting there, and they're talking to this man, and he's explaining, "Well, I had this program on my computer. I wanted him to delete it." And they said, "Well, what is it?" And he said, "Oh, it's a like a search engine or something. You can look things up and you can look at things." Now, he wouldn't get into specifics, of course, right?
Mhm.
So his wife was like, "Oh, he has dementia." And the officer said, "Well, when did he get diagnosed with that?" And she said, "Oh, we're going to the doctor tomorrow."
We're
And
gonna diagnose him tomorrow.
right. And so the officer said, "Well, how are you saying that he has dementia and you haven't even gone to the doctor?" And she said, "Well, I've been watching his behavior, and I know, and all this kind of stuff, whatever." So the officer's like, "Okay, whatever." Like, I'm talking to him and he understands me, you
Mhm.
know? So anyway, so they keep asking him, what exactly are you looking at? Um, and he's not explaining. And they said, "Okay, well, there's an accusation, that you're looking up CP.
Mhm.
And so we need that laptop." And the wife was kind of fighting it. She was saying, "Oh, he's not doing anything. I'm just gonna destroy the computer. I don't want him to have it. You know, I he's fine."
Mhm.
And the cop was like, "No, we're actually gonna take it. So we're going to seize it. We're going to have a warrant for this entire property. We will take it. And if there's nothing on there, then you have nothing to worry about."
Mhm.
And she was making all kinds of excuses, like mostly, "Oh, he's never done anything. He was just looking. He wasn't doing anything.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to let him on the computer anymore," and all of that. That's the type of person that we're talking about here, who's going to make excuses. And just to put an ending on this here, he does have a hearing coming up this month. I don't know if it happened already. I'll have to look up his name. But they ended up arresting him because, of course,
Yeah.
right? So here's an 89-year-old whose wife is saying, "Oh, he has dementia." Well, is it bad enough that he's not able to navigate the dark web?
Is it bad enough that he didn't know that he was looking at highly illegal material and he needed to get that deleted off his
Yes,
computer?
exactly. And I'm also curious what scared him.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah, that's a good question. Aren't there like I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but it just popped in my head. Aren't there like scam things that I don't know. It's like a scam. There are like scam things that things that are like you owe the IRS blah 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 amount of money.
Oh,
Contact this
right.
number right now. I
Yes.
wonder if there's like similar things on porn sites.
There could be, but I have a feeling that this was much deeper than that. I don't think that this was like
Oh,
a normal website. This was he downloaded something that was allowing him to have access to CP.
oh God.
And so I'm so curious, like, did he see something on the news? Because those types of things get busted a lot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
200 people arrested in Ring, you know. And I'm sure it has to do with that type of a thing that, I mean, they're watching that kind of stuff all the time, you know, trying
Yeah.
to crack it down because it's such a dangerous, you know, it's such an incredibly dangerous and a tragic thing to have happen, you know, to kids. And to have the attitude of, oh, no, he was just looking. He wasn't,
I
he just looks
think
at things.
a lot of women, or maybe not a lot, but too many women have that same attitude when their husbands are caught not doing anything physically,
Mm-hmm.
not engaging with kids physically themselves, but looking at stuff like that. They see it as more of a victimless crime. He wasn't
Yes.
actually having sex. I mean, which of course is not true.
Mm-hmm.
They're re-victimizing that kid every time a pervert looks at that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And creating the market for such material alone obviously victimizes the children who are involved in that. If nobody was looking at it,
Absolutely.
nobody would be creating it,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like, but yeah, I think that old lady is not unique in that thought process, which is
Right.
people at heart are just selfish. And I mean, not to say that I feel like that's just what it comes down to. It's just selfishness. Like, if her husband got arrested, that's going to negatively impact her, right? People are going to
Oh,
know
sure. Yes.
that her husband got arrested for looking at this horrible material,
Mm-hmm.
horrible, with babies.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to be embarrassed. How's she going to go play bingo? She's going to be so embarrassed. He was
I
just
know.
looking. I
Yep.
don't, or maybe I won't get his social security money anymore and I won't have that income coming in. He was just looking. Like, people, or maybe she just loved him so much she couldn't stand the thought of him going to prison. I somehow doubt it though.
Yeah, I have a feeling that she knows who she's dealing with, and this isn't the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So she's probably caught him with things. And I forgot to mention, he was a teacher.
Of course he was. Oh God, of course
Hmm.
he was.
I'm going to find that video. I'll link it so that you guys can see it. I'll find that. It won't be too hard. I just saw it the other day.
I could never be a police officer because I would
No,
body slam that 89-year-old man and his wife.
you absolutely would at the same time. You'd clothesline him with both your arms out, just run at him.
I would. I'm really big and strong and I could do it. I
Yeah.
I feel like I would so badly want to get physical with these horrible people.
Yeah, I think it must be so difficult to be restrained, you know, in those situations in particular. You know, you have this old man and his wife who are sitting there just like, oh, you know, what
Hmm.
an inconvenience. You know, what are you here for? It's no big deal.
Just
I
let me
just
set the
delete
computer
it.
on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, just
It's
delete it.
like
It's going to be
Justin McFetridge. I'm
gone.
going to go home and delete it all. So don't
Yes.
worry.
You know what? That's a perfect example because
Hmm.
I was thinking about him while this video was playing. I was like, wow, they're treating this man, I shouldn't say they because the cops weren't, but his wife and probably the rest of his family, because his son came over as well. Probably the wife called him to
Hmm.
come over. Um, we're treating him like I feel like his Dustin's family and also his church group
Hmm.
that were present at his last hearing, the way this in the same way that they treat Dustin as, oh, he's not going to hurt anybody. Look at him. He has cerebral palsy. He's handicapped. He can't.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like that's the same type of a conversation that happened with the girl's mother who ended up calling his house. Remember that story?
No,
from
refresh
his
my.
interrogation. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. It
yeah.
Dustin. Yeah.
Yep, for Dustin. So, someone had called. He was talking to a young girl,
Hmm.
and that person's mother or father, I can't remember,
It was the mother.
okay, called Dustin's home, spoke to his parents and his, what was his mom's second husband or third husband or something like that. He identified them as that. He like counted them. But um I believe that that father called him and said, "You have a problem," because I don't think that he was home at the time. So when he got home and they, had to have some type of a discussion, and also over the phone with this girl's family, it was pretty much squashed. He wasn't prosecuted for that. And I
Hmm.
think it was his family that really stood up for him and was like, "Listen, I could imagine his family calling him crippled. I don't
Hmm.
know why, but that's like something that I could hear them say, that he's just crippled. Like he's on the computer, he's very lonely. And he shouldn't have been talking to her. It's never going to happen again. And he's not going to talk to her. He's not going to talk to anybody who's underage. Like, we're just going to leave this here. We promise never to do it again." So they walked away from that, unfortunately. But I think that that is how Dustin and also this man and other people, when there's something that they can grab onto and say, "Oh, don't worry about him. He can't hurt anybody. He's either elderly or he's someone who has a physical handicap like Dustin,"
Hmm.
and it all ends up horrific, because look what Dustin then did after that. It never stopped. He had a lot of material on his computer.
Hmm.
A lot.
Yeah, it's like we said, there's no victimless crime to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're just looking, even if they're just watching, they're still victimizing. But it doesn't end there, it escalates.
Yeah.
And in the case with the old guy you're talking about, you'd have to imagine he was a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to imagine that he didn't just start looking at 90 years old when he's
No,
been
of course
surrounded by
not.
children for how many years,
Right.
and thought maybe now, yeah, maybe now he's not capable of going out there and meeting a kid. At this point he's 90
Mm-hmm.
years old, he has dementia
Mm-hmm.
apparently.
Well, I don't think he
But in
does.
years past, no, right, but even if he's old and infirm and
Mm-hmm.
immobile, he can't do anything.
Yeah.
There was a time when he was around children when he could, and you have to wonder what did he try to do, because people
Exactly.
don't just all of a sudden start looking at fucking toddlers when they're 89 years old.
Right.
Like that's an incredible, that's fucked up. Like that's very sick.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine it doesn't start there. Like um what's his name? Ted Bundy talked
Mm-hmm.
about sort of the like his addiction to pornography, and
Mm-hmm.
how he just wasn't satisfied by like regular stuff as time went on. It got more and more extreme
Mm-hmm.
and like depraved. And I would imagine it's kind of the same way. Once you're to the point where where you can look at a baby in any way other than, oh, what a cute little baby,
Yeah.
what an innocent little baby who needs to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that's an escalation. Like I don't
Absolutely.
know, but I would think that it doesn't start off like that.
No, I would agree. Definitely. So this is a person who's been around kids, had an entire career doing that,
Mhm.
had his own children, at least one,
Mhm.
has neighbors who have kids, and he was clearly navigating the dark web.
Mhm.
So he has a level of sophistication. You have Lorne, who's in a Yahoo chat room, and obviously he was talking to people, because that type of material isn't just there. I think that that's
Right. You have to go
often,
looking for it.
yeah, that's often the argument that, that people will use with Lorne as well. It's, well, you were obviously talking to someone who provided that to you. It didn't
Mhm.
just pop up, somewhere. You were
Right.
somewhere that led to that. And it's the same thing with this man. What program did you have? It's not Google,
Right.
you
There's
know?
no such images on Google. Right. Exactly.
Right, right. And I mean, as someone like myself who uses the internet every single day for work, for personal life, everything,
Hmm.
I don't know dark web stuff. Like, I don't even know where it is. And I'm
I
glad
don't
because
either.
it's so scary. It scares
Right. I
me.
was just thinking that I wouldn't know how to get on the dark web.
Yeah. So, I mean, for him to be able to do that somehow, it says a lot. That
Hmm.
if you were to look through his internet history, it would probably be, I don't know. I think you'd probably have nightmares from what he's been up to for a very long time. Like you said, didn't just start because he's, maybe aging. So his wife thinks that he has dementia.
Hmm.
He's 89. So he's just like, oh, well, here I go. I'm going to start looking up all kinds of shit I always wanted to.
Hmm.
Like, it's been something that he's been doing for decades, guaranteed. And she knows that. She knows. Maybe not with babies, maybe not with toddlers, but she knows that he's been up to shit. I bet you there's been a lot of infidelity.
Hmm.
I bet you prostitutes. Like, I'm just
Hmm.
imagining so many things that he probably has a really, really dark past.
If you're not shocked by finding out that your husband's looking at toddlers,
Hmm.
there must have been some shit going on. That
Agreed.
that would be incredibly if she didn't know anything and that was just brought to her attention,
Yeah.
she'd be like, "Holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That something is very, very wrong."
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Her demeanor, it was so calm. She just wanted it all to go away.
Hmm.
If she could have convinced that officer that she was going to delete the whatever, she was going to throw away the computer or whatever she was going to do and make sure that he never has access to anything ever again, she would have been happy with that. She
Hmm.
was very calm and she just wanted it to be over with. And you're absolutely right. I think that if this is something that came out of the blue and you had no idea, you would be shaking. You'd probably vomit on the floor.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
so your husband, the man you had
yeah,
children with.
right. You all of a sudden that would all flash in front of your eyes, right?
Hmm.
All of that time, like, I don't even know this person. Holy shit.
Right. Yeah, sick fucking monster.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I was just thinking about, when you were saying, oh, if you saw his search history, it would give you
Mm-hmm.
nightmares. The police officer, somebody has to go through that computer
Yes.
and see what's on there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's victimizing yet another person.
Yeah.
That police officer is going to have to see things that they can never ever get out of their mind.
No.
I could never do it.
I saw a I don't think it was a parole hearing. I think it was a sentencing of someone. Yeah, it was. It was a sentencing of someone. And it's not even something that we could even do here. That's how graphic it is.
Hmm.
Um and obviously they didn't show anything. And they won't show it to him during that, but the officer had to identify um evidence
Hmm.
and he was like breaking down on the things that he had to see.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
I
it's I don't know.
I could imagine what a toll that would take
Yeah.
on. That's what you do for a job to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
You you are traumatized
Mm-hmm.
daily by the most horrific images that you can never erase from your memory.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough fucking money in the world, but somebody has to do it. to punish these people and to make sure other people are
Mm-hmm.
safe for them. And I
Yeah.
understand, but it's creating another victim.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times you'll hear, like the judge will want the testimony from like first responders to murder cases. I'm thinking of one specifically. There was a young woman who left her baby. I think he was like 3 or 4 months old. She left him in a swing or like a car seat, a bouncy chair, something like that. She left him in there for, I think it was 2 weeks, 19 days, something like that, straight,
Mm-hmm.
facing the wall in a bedroom with the door closed, with a mattress propped up over the door. The bedroom was sweltering hot. She didn't feed or change the baby's diaper for many, many days. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember exactly at this point, but it was like 2 weeks. Obviously, the baby died,
Yeah.
and he was eaten by maggots,
Oh,
like literally
jeez.
eaten by them.
Yeah.
And she got up and called 911. Or she went in and told her boyfriend, the baby's dead. I don't know what happened. I just checked on him at 9 a.m. and now he's dead. Bullshit.
Yeah.
He's been rotting in a dirty diaper for weeks at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the father called the 911 and he said, the kid died. I think it was sudden infant death. They were both meth heads and fucking retards, obviously. Um,
Yeah. Was that the guy that had all the tattoos all over his face?
no, that's Chris McNabb. That's a whole other one.
Okay. Because I was,
No,
okay.
he smashed his baby's head in
Oh,
when
jeez.
he was on meth.
Okay.
They just left the baby to literally rot
What was
and
their
be
names?
eaten by her name was Cheyenne Harris.
Okay.
Um, the baby's name was Sterling, and the father's name was Zachary Cohen.
Okay. I remember the names.
It's a horrible, horrible story, one that just sticks with you.
Yeah.
And during the trial, they had um, the paramedic who
Mm-hmm.
arrived after 911 was called. They heard their testimony, they heard the police officer's testimony, and they all talked about how when they removed actually, they didn't even remove the baby from the swing because he was basically
He
glued to
couldn't
it
be. Yeah.
from urine. Well, he was clearly dead.
Yeah.
There was no resuscitating this baby. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing they could do for him. So they just took the whole thing, the whole swing with all this. She took baby clothes and like blankets and stuff and stuffed them all around him in the swing to try
Mm-hmm.
to soak up all the urine
Oh my
and just like
gosh.
hide the smell of it.
Yeah.
So this little baby is just sweltering. It's so heartbreaking and so horrible. And again, she victimized her baby, and so did the father, of course, by ignoring it.
Yeah.
Um, but also, these people have that in their heads for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
These horrible sights
Mm-hmm.
that they can never get rid of. Like you close your eyes and you see this little dead baby being eaten alive by maggots. It's horrific.
Yeah.
There's another one too where the medical examiner just broke down, and she looks at dead bodies all day every day,
Yeah.
dead children. It's nothing new for her, but during her testimony of what happened, this is a case I talk about pretty often. It's the little girl's name was Cherish Periwinkle.
Yes. Yep.
Her mother let a strange man that she just met at the Dollar General take her into the dressing room. She was 8 years old,
Yeah.
and let him take her to the McDonald's because she thought she was going to get a $150 Walmart gift card out of it.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the man was a lifelong sex offender
Of
and
course.
pedophile. He had been getting in trouble since he was like a child himself,
Wow.
and they kept letting him out of jail. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the mitigating fact because he was up for the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
That's all his lawyers could bring up for mitigation was that he should have never been released, and this is on the prison system for releasing him from jail. It's their fault.
But
But
he did
anyway,
get death, right?
I think he did. I sure
Yeah.
fucking hope so. He is a monster. while the medical examiner was describing the body of the little girl, she had to stop and take a break.
Yeah.
It was so bad. And just hearing it, like I couldn't listen to the whole thing, but just the parts that I've heard, I'll never forget
Yeah.
them. It's the kind of case that will make me, like, in the middle of the night, pop my eyes open and say, holy shit, I wish I never heard that. I wish I did not know
Yeah.
that people do those things to children.
I know. It's awful. People do horrible things.
Hmm.
Not even just to other people, but to children as well, to
Hmm.
animals, unspeakable things. It's
Hmm.
shocking. And it all I feel like it all starts with stuff like this.
Hmm.
And that's why, the prosecution is so important. That's why probation is so important. This person is going to be allowed to be living in society. Then it has to be so strong. It has to be so strict,
Hmm.
you know. And it's really frustrating, certainly to hear somebody like Lorne um, talk about how it's bullshit, that he has to take class or he has to take time out of his workday or he has to tell his boss and he's losing jobs because of that, or it's embarrassing for him. It's embarrassing, that he's getting contacted by random people on the internet. He was afraid when he first was released from prison that people were going to recognize him,
Hmm.
that he wouldn't even leave, and his mom had to force him to leave and go somewhere
Mm,
out
too
in
bad.
public. Yeah, it's too bad. Too bad. It's not about your comfort. It's not
Right.
about things being convenient for you or you having a life like the rest of us are able to have. You've already proven that you're not the rest of us.
Hmm.
So, therefore, you need to carry around this ball and chain with you for the rest of your life. That's why it's laughable that Lorne thinks, oh, get me off of probation and let me move. You think that's how it works?
When people are allowed to hide, to integrate back in,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of live in the shadows with their past not being known, things like what happened to the little girl that I was just describing, that's when things like that happen.
Mm-hmm.
When people aren't monitored and they're not, people in their area aren't aware
Mm-hmm.
of who and what they are, and under, right, strict supervision and monitoring. That's when stuff
Yeah.
like that happens. So what would we rather have happen? What would society at large rather have happen? Lauren gets some dildos in the mail and it hurts his feelings and makes him cry, or some little girl ends up raped?
Exactly. Exactly. He's already proven himself to be a groomer and a predator. He's already
Hmm.
proven that. He's not, that we know of, the type of person who's going to commit an abduction like with Periwinkle.
Hmm.
That's not the type of situation that we're talking about. But we're talking about a known groomer. It's known. You did it. There's
Right.
documentation.
Yeah. He's not going to go into a Walmart and steal an 18-year-old girl.
No.
18, an 8-year-old girl,
Right.
and abuse her violently
Mm-hmm.
like that. No. Would he m- meet a 14-year-old girl and convince her that she's in love with him, and people who are in love have sex with each other? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we know that because that's what he tried to do.
Yeah. Multiple times.
Hmm.
Multiple times. And he even admitted to the fact that if Kayla had been real and he wasn't caught, that there would have been more.
Hmm.
And he doesn't even have to admit that. We know that his words are shit anyway. But it's a
Well,
known fact that it would have continued.
Like, just like it did after Molly,
Yes.
after Melissa.
Yes.
And yes, if Kayla had not been a sting and he hadn't gotten caught, then absolutely it would have continued
Exactly.
with other young girls.
And with Rhoda,
Hmm.
right?
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. I know Rhoda was 18, but the argument still totally stands. And if I were Lorne's probation officer, that would be very, very alarming to me. That would be very
Mm-hmm.
concerning to
Mm-hmm.
me that he would be willing to have a sexual relationship with the barely 18-year-old daughter of his girlfriend who clearly had like mental impairment issues. She might
Mm-hmm.
as well have been a child. And
Yeah.
age of consent, I don't know how the laws work, but I think there must be something in there about taking advantage of somebody um, with a mental disability.
Oh, certainly there is. Yeah. I mean, she would have to be diagnosed with something, I think. I don't think it's just like, oh, well, she seems like there's something wrong,
Yeah,
you
I see.
know. But at the same time, because she was 18, now the reason why that was because Lorne wouldn't talk to her unless she was 18.
Hmm.
That's why she turned 18. But that was also only because he was talking to other people. Other people were involved, like
Right, they knew
Winnie.
about
They
it.
knew
Right.
about it. Exactly. If
Hmm.
this was a situation where this was in person and Rhoda was 14, 15, and she was acting the way that she did,
Hmm.
calling him daddy and playing these little games, he would have been in there in a second. He would have been wrapped up in that entire situation. He never
Hmm.
would have stopped it. There's no stopping a degenerate.
I think it's also important to remember from Lauren's perspective, he didn't know how old Rhoda was, for sure.
Oh,
Sure,
yeah, that's an
she told
excellent
him she was
point.
18. Winnie
Mm-hmm.
told him that she was 18. Winnie also told him she was Casey Morrow and the Pepsi girl.
Yes.
So Winnie's word isn't exactly reliable. Lauren did not have 100% verified fact that the girl he was talking to was 18 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
he's still talking about all the things he wants to do to her, sending her pictures, asking her for pictures. That
Mm-hmm.
didn't stop him.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. I hadn't considered that. You're absolutely right.
And again, I mean, if I would think that would be a huge concern for probation, that he's willing to engage in these kinds of conversations and
Mm-hmm.
send these kind of pictures to anyone who he isn't 1,000,000,000% positive that they're not a minor.
Mm-hmm.
And he just doesn't care. He's going to take you at your word because that's what he wants to believe. And I think that he thinks saying, I thought she was 18 would be enough of a
Oh,
defense for him.
1,000% yes. Yes.
It's your job as an adult to make sure.
Oh, sure.
You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't that doesn't fly, Lauren.
No, it doesn't. I mean, there's plenty of people who are on the sex offender registry because of that very reason.
Hmm.
They were in a bar. So you would imagine somebody in a bar is going to be 21, right?
Yeah, just like Lauren
Nope.
was in an adult chat room.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, who happened to find all the kids in there?
right. Exactly. Right. He didn't mean to do it though.
No, he didn't mean to do it.
But no,
Yeah.
you're right. There are countless people in that very situation. Oh, I thought she was 21. Well, you better make fucking sure, bud.
Mhm.
Because her dad found out what you did and she's not, and now you're a sex offender.
Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody like that is going to be a sex offender, then Lauren should certainly still
Hmm.
be carrying that burden and not be allowed to slither away, to go, crawl under a rock, where he can start to do what he wants. Because we
No.
know what Lauren does when he does what he wants.
Hmm.
He doesn't do the right thing for the simple fact that it's the right thing. And that says everything.
No, and Molly knows what Lorne does when he's left to do
Mm-hmm.
whatever he wants, when he's allowed to live in secrecy in the shadows. Even if you take Kayla out of the equation, Lorne thought she was a real girl, and that's
Mm-hmm.
all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
But Molly was a real girl.
Yeah.
He is a sex offender.
He is. Yes. Yes. So it's really insane that there's a possibility that he could be allowed to get what he wants.
I know.
I'm still hopeful.
I am too. I think Judge Woodcock, I don't know. I hope that Judge Woodcock knows what he's dealing with
Yeah.
and knows the dangers. If not, Judge Woodcock, listen to our video. We laid out several excellent arguments, I must say.
Yes.
Excellent arguments.
Maybe we'll submit it.
Let's go to the hearing.
Let's go to the hearing. Roll the
Your Honor.
footage.
Right. Exhibit A. It's our YouTube video.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I know there's so much. There's
Yeah,
so
if
much.
probation needs help, you can reach out to us.
Oh my gosh, I know. I know.
We'll help you lay out a good argument.
I know. There's so much.
Mm-hmm.
And all that Lorne has is, well, I have a business and I have a kid. So please, can I go away now?
Right. Let's
And
erase what happened. Let's pretend it didn't happen and
let's
let me
pretend.
go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to just move on with my life. Well, fuck you. You don't get to.
Right. That too bad, bud. You shouldn't have done it.
I
This is an
know.
irredeemable crime.
It is. Yeah.
And it's not just about punishment. I know we all want to see Lorne punished because he's a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bad guy. It's not just about punishment. Much more important is safety for other people, for other children.
Yes.
And not to sound like a broken record, it's been said a million times, but if Lorne has a kid, now's the time more than ever that he needs to be closely monitored. That kid is going to grow up to be an adolescent, a preteen, Lorne's target audience.
Yep.
13-year-old girls. He should never be allowed around children.
I know. I know. Well, we're counting on you, Judge Woodcock, please.
Mm-hmm.
Please, please, please. I mean, the thing that I think is going to work in our favor is, you know how we talk about how he has 2 life sentences to probation? Mm-hmm. Well, he established the second one only 5 years ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Them saying that he hasn't been in trouble for 5 years is, big deal. That's
know.
half of the time that he's been on probation now. I'm not impressed. Maybe in another 10 years, then talk about it. 10 years of perfect behavior.
Well, the dogs are not having it. They disagree.
Angie's furious. She said, what?
Absolutely not.
Let him off probation? No.
Let me at him.
She's going to bite him.
But the thing is, though, that 89-year-old is a perfect example. Lorne may be 89 one day. And if he's let off of probation and left to his own devices, he's going to turn into that guy.
Mm-hmm.
100% will, because he's unrepentant.
Mm-hmm. You're right. And this compulsion doesn't just go away.
No, it doesn't. And especially because he hasn't even accepted what happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't accepted it. He can't say, I was grooming a child. I was preying upon a child. He cannot say that.
Well, no, he truly thinks they were preying on him.
He does. He does believe that. And he also believes that he was just an innocent soul amongst a bunch of people who took advantage of him. And he had nowhere to go. He just wanted to be loved. And he couldn't get it from his family. They all took advantage of him. He had to run away. He gave his family jobs, and they took the money and they left him when he needed it again. He had to sell his house after he put $50,000 into it for $6,000. He sold all his tools and he left town. He just wanted to leave and start his own country song about how he went to Nashville with nothing.
In reality, though, he ran away because he had just stolen a substantial amount of money from a retired couple, and he didn't want to have to pay it back.
Well, he couldn't pay it back. He didn't have any.
I know, but he didn't want to have to hand over, go get a normal job like a regular guy and
Sure.
hand over a big chunk of his paycheck every week.
No.
He wanted to run away from that problem. He wasn't running away from his family and them using him because he couldn't say no.
No.
He didn't want to have to deal with what he did to Betty and her husband.
Exactly. He felt backed into a corner, and he just had to leave.
So he ran away like a coward.
Yeah.
After he took their savings. They were not wealthy people. It's not like they had tons of money and they could say, oh, 20 or 30 grand, we'll be okay. They were fucked after that.
Yeah.
So he fucked up their life and their dream. Betty said it was their dream to have a nice little place up in the country where they could enjoy their retirement and, sort of the later part of their lives in peace. They wanted to make it their own little dream home and do these renovations and stuff. He killed that dream. So he decided to run away like a coward and pursue his own dream of becoming a country music singer.
I know. It's so ridiculous. But those are the types of stories that he has for every single thing that happens. Whether it's a reason why he was let go from a job, wasn't his fault.
Never
his fault. R.C. Moore was supposed to take me back.
But what makes it so perfect, what makes it all so poetic and beautiful, is that if he had not done that to Betty, done this horrible thing to her and her husband, which led to such terrible things. Her husband had a stroke. He ended up passing away. She's on her own. She has no money. She's really struggling. Like, it's horrible what happened to her. But if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have run away to Nashville. And if he did not go to Nashville, he would not have been talking to Kayla Princess. And he wouldn't have destroyed his own life so spectacularly. He probably would have fucked his own life up. He probably would have got caught with a kid, talking to a kid, meeting with a kid at some point. But it wouldn't have been on a show that was like a cultural phenomenon, it wouldn't have been on this incredibly popular show in such a public way. It's a really good example of somebody getting what they deserve.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I can only imagine how Betty felt when she saw him on the show.
I know. That would have been amazing because that would be somebody that she'd be thinking about all the time. All of the hardships. I'm broke. Like, I'm struggling
can't pay
now.
My bills.
Yeah.
If only this fucker would give me back my money.
Yes. And then she's like, I'm going to take a rest from thinking about this stuff. Let me watch some TV.
Oh, just the ultimate, like, a revenge. You're real mad at someone. You want something so bad. You can even dream up something like that to happen to your worst enemy.
I know. I know. I mean, the fact it's like you just think about this entire road that Lorne has been
Hmm.
on. It's unlike anyone else. I mean, aside from Stanley, who got a
A little
fraction,
bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
a fraction of it. But with Lorne, I mean, just it's worldwide.
Hmm.
You know, you have an Irish guy reading the things that you wrote. How
An
many people could
Australian
say that?
guy, literally worldwide. I know. Listening to him weep and sob over a doctor touching a woman's knee.
I know.
Listening to him trying to flirt with the third iteration of Casey Morrow. Oh man, just the most humiliating things in a person's life, and they're all public, worldwide.
Worldwide, and they're going to stay public,
Hmm.
and it's going to still continue to grow, and this isn't going to be the end.
No, because he can't just shut the fuck up. Like, just stay out of shit and just go on with his life. He's got to, court stuff like that is public information. We're going to see it. You can't hide it from us.
No, no. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, why is that something that you point out in your motion that
Hmm.
within hours and minutes, yeah, it was minutes for sure. It was definitely
Yeah.
within minutes of it being posted. It's disseminated, yes, and we're making videos about it, yes, and we're going to
Hmm.
dissect it, yes.
Hmm.
Absolutely, it's going to happen. It's public information.
The lawyer, I mean, he's saying Lauren deserves privacy.
Yeah,
Why?
right. Right.
Why? Don't
Yeah,
get caught
why?
on a TV show trying to abuse a kid. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. I mean, just like you had mentioned earlier with what Judge Woodcock said. You know, you're people love their children. You know, people want to protect kids. People
Hmm.
love kids, you know, and when something bad happens like this, they're going to have a reaction to it. And you're not going to win. You're not going to be the good guy. There's going to be some fucked up people that are going to think that you are. And they're going to think you should be left alone and you didn't really hurt anybody. And all of the excuses that will come out like that. But the reality is that you did. And so
Hmm.
you do.
You did, you do. Exactly.
Yeah. So you,
That's our verdict.
yeah, that's our verdict. You did, you do. Well, we talked about a lot of things,
We did, yeah.
but it was all good stuff. I had to get a lot off my chest. When I read it, it
I
was really distracted. Like it distracted me for the whole day. I,
hmm.
I felt like it felt almost like an out of body experience. You know, like I'm trying to work, I'm trying to get stuff done, and I'm like, but there was a kid that visited him.
Yeah, I kind of, I won't say I knew it was coming because I didn't,
Mhm.
obviously, for sure, but I was kind of prepared for that. I've
Yeah,
been worried about that.
yeah, you were bracing yourself for impact.
Yeah. I just thought
Yeah.
when probation didn't shut it down, I
Hmm.
thought, okay, it's a lot more likely now that
Yeah.
there is truth to it.
I was just hoping that they didn't mention it because it hadn't been verified yet, or they didn't know the full story, or you know they knew it was bullshit. But I can see what you're saying too, that they would have used that as an example
Hmm.
of he's still getting fooled by all of this.
Yeah, it would have been the perfect time to bring it up.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
since you want to talk about how you're a new father, Mr. Armstrong, actually, you're being fucked with again.
yeah, let me pull up this YouTube video of,
Hmm.
of the calls that you've been having with this, you know, quote unquote mother. It's a person with a voice changer.
Right.
It's
It's
Blue
another
Boy.
robot. I know.
Yeah, it's a Blue Boy with a different voice changer. Oh my god. I mean that's truly what I was hoping. I thought it was going to be this elaborate story, where he was convinced somehow that there was a baby and it was his and he was going to cry and he was going to show it to mom.
Hmm.
Finally mom, look at your son.
Grammy.
And just, yeah, Grammy.
Here's your here's your grandson, Grammy.
I have a feeling that Mama Gwen would not call him daddy.
No.
So yeah, whatever.
Whatever, Lon.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Could you imagine him telling her about this? She'd be like, okay.
I know. She'd be like, sure, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, exactly. And
She's
then
probably
when she
just as shocked as the rest of us.
definitely that is for sure.
I mean, I was hoping that too, that it was all an
Yeah.
elaborate catfish. They're tricking him again. But unfortunately, I know that there are women like that who would do what this woman did.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of Lorne, meeting them. And apparently he did. But it's not that surprising when you think of, and this is just a theory. Obviously, we don't know who this woman is or how he met her.
Mhm.
But Preparette, his Canadian friend,
Mhm.
um, was unconcerned with Lorne's crime.
Oh, true.
She
Yeah.
said his sexuality is really none of her business.
Mhm.
And there are people who feel the same way. She was just unconcerned. Like you said, he didn't really hurt anybody,
Yeah.
or it's not that bad. It's not that bad. The kid was 13. It's not like they were 3.
True. And it was also a decoy.
Right. It's not even a real kid.
Mhm.
So no big deal. Here's my friend. I think you
Yeah.
guys would get along great. She's
Uh,
mentally unstable and disgusting. Here you go.
yeah. She thinks you're cute. She's seen all of your RSO photos.
I know. I know. That's why I'm so confused about, like, I know there are women who are desperate and stupid and pathetic and sick, just fucked up, selfish. Selfish, I think, is the root of most things. What can I
Mhm.
get out of this? There's something in it for me. I don't really care what happens to other people. I don't care. But just his physical appearance alone,
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say, I'll tell you exactly what I'm saying.
All right.
I'm saying, where to start? One ear is significantly lower. It sits down by his jaw, like on his ear is on his neck and jaw. The other one is in a semi-normal position. They are very asymmetrical.
Okay.
The human eye sees symmetry as beautiful, so I've heard.
Yes.
He's the opposite. His eyes are almost completely obscured by like puffy eye meat. I don't,
You did not just say that.
what do you call it? It's not an eyelid. It's like right below your eyebrow.
No,
That
it is. Yeah, there's that does happen. It does get droopy, and you can have a procedure for that to lift.
he needs it. He really
Yeah,
needs it.
yeah.
It's not the bone protruding because there's a bone. It is his
Correct.
meat.
All right. Well, we're going to be on the lookout for a YouTube name called Puffy Eye Meat. We look forward to meeting you. Oh, jeez.
Oh boy. There's all kinds of physical deformities and unpleasant things to look at. The tooth,
Oh, yeah, the tooth.
the tooth. It's so square and big and and so much longer. It's the only one you can see when he talks. because he tries to cover
He does try to
his
cover, yeah. No, he does.
and but it's too big, so it just peeks out
Like a jack-o'-lantern.
just like a jack-o'-lantern. Yes. He's unattractive, okay? He has fungus on his feet.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's got a horseshoe haircut, a horseshoe hairstyle. He wears little granny reader glasses.
Okay.
Is that not enough?
Do you have more?
Um, yeah, I mean, I do. I have more. He must smell horrific, like old cigarettes, coffee. We've never heard him brush his teeth.
He has a couple of times.
Okay, twice in almost 10 years.
Yeah. It's been a couple of times and he did use that light on his teeth.
He called that cleaning his teeth, by the way.
Oh, did he?
He did. So I think he has a little bit of a misunderstanding about
Okay.
dental care, about dental hygiene,
Right.
because putting a flashlight in your mouth does not clean your teeth. Um,
Okay.
but he narrates every step of his day. I took a shower, baby. I just fed the dogs, baby. When does he say I brushed my teeth?
I
He
think you're
doesn't.
onto something, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is argument. He's it's bad. Okay, he
Okay.
looks bad. He smells bad. He's a moron, and he's a sex offender. I mean, we're just talking about his physical appearance right now, though.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, those are significant things.
Okay. One of the things I was thinking about as well was the fact that he has no money.
Yeah, I know.
How are
That's
you
his
going
argument.
to support a child? You have no money, you have no insurance
Hmm.
because you're not really working, right? You have your own business, Mr. Businessman. How are you paying for insurance?
He's not. That child will be
Mm.
getting like government insurance, I'm sure,
Okay. So if
like
it's
welfare
Canadian,
insurance.
then
Hmm.
that's universal health care right there.
Hmm.
Okay. So I mean, I think you're right. I think it would have to be, right? I mean, just coming from the perspective of Lorne and what he can provide, it's absolutely nothing.
Hmm.
You know what I just thought? Remember when he bought all of those baby things?
Yeah.
I wonder if he's using them. He must be.
I guarantee it. I would
Oh
put
my god.
money on it. Him, he would be so happy to oh, could you imagine? You meet a dude, he has no kids. He's never around kids.
Hmm.
You start a relationship, you get pregnant, and he says, "Oh, good. Now I have a use for all the baby clothes I have in my dog shed.
Right.
I
And
keep them right
Roscoe's
next
dog
to I
shed.
keep Lamondre."
Oh my god, I know. And how crazy would it be as well to remember where you got those and why you got those? It was for Jamie.
Yeah, I got them because my robot porn star catfish girlfriend
Yeah.
was pregnant with another man's baby.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he keeps them in the dog shed right next to the Ramona angel
Oh my god. I forgot about the Ramona Angel.
and
So
all
many
the things that remind him of Jamie.
so many things
Hmm.
in that place have to do with a catfish.
Yeah, because he revolves his whole life around whoever he's talking to.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's like when he was playing show and tell with Casey and Jamie on the Zoom call.
Yeah.
And he said, "Remember this, Jamie? These plates? I bought them at a yard sale when we was on the phone." So he'll assign sentimental value to every object. "I bought this because Jamie said she liked it." Remember he sent her the picture of the starfish um,
The
drawer
yes.
pulls?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the drawer knobs. that our dreams were shot to shit. Because in all these items are like symbolic of their future, of their life. I think he fantasized about them using those dishes while they were eating his juicy burgers that he
Oh,
makes. Or,
God. You mean the raw
you know,
ones?
yeah. I think he lived in a fantasy world all the time. He would just
Yeah.
daydream about what it's going to be like when she finally gets there. And all
Yes.
these items are like symbolic of their future or have special meaning in his mind
Right.
about their future. But he's a hoarder, so he can't get rid of anything.
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely being used for his
Oh, sure. Yeah.
new family.
So they're going to celebrate their Christmas together as a family with the Ramona angel that Jamie picked out.
And that trophy case is going to be lit up and it's going to have those presidential heads in them.
Yeah, but he's going to give them to his real girlfriend now. They're hers now.
You know what's
Because every
hers
woman
now?
wants this. What?
Lamondre.
I bet it is.
I
I
bet
bet
you it
she's a
is
sick.
too.
Yeah, I think she's a sick freak who would be like, "Oh, cool. I'll take that. Yeah, that's sexy."
Do you think he
I think
used the pecker pouch in the way that he wanted to?
I think he might have tried. And maybe she laughed at him and she was like, "You can't do that." Maybe they did, and Lauren thought it would be adequate protection, and that's why she got pregnant.
Because he didn't go get them things.
He couldn't afford
He
them.
couldn't afford them. Exactly. He didn't have
So,
enough gas to go and pick her up at the airport
right.
and
So
come back in
whoever
mom's
sent Lauren
car.
that pecker pouch,
Uh huh.
you are responsible for Lauren impregnating this woman.
Wow. Wow.
Get
Hang your
him.
head in shame.
Yeah. Let's get him.
Yeah. Remember, we said that we would shame on this channel?
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved his shame.
That person should feel very ashamed for that pecker pouch.
Good
Well,
job.
I know. Good job. Good job. Exactly. Well, I think that threat was a good way to end this. We've been talking for 3 hours.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It was good. It was a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hopefully you hung in there.
I know. There's going to be
Yeah.
like 2 people hanging on during the premiere. Like, Jesus
I
Christ.
know. They're like, actually, I have to go do shit. When are you gonna shut up?
I know. We finished the document, the court document, like 2 hours ago.
I know exactly. The thing's 4 pages or something like that. Yeah, it's very short, 4 to 6 pages, and we're.
I know. I thought this would be a short one too
I did
because of that.
too. I did too. And you know what? I always think that.
Yeah,
I
never
was like,
is.
oh, we're talking. Oh, it's been only 7 minutes. Wow. Okay, we're gonna finish early, and then okay. Anyway, it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think we'll end it.
Good idea.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Amanda James, for your insight as always.
Yes. Thank you for yours.
Yeah.
Always good to hear.
Well, we will see you next time when we come up with another document that we're gonna get to. Maybe it'll be a new one. Who knows? Who
Hope
knows?
so.
But if not, then we will go back to the past and we will continue where we left off. So until then, take care.